Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
Very thankful for 12th man. They've won us games.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
Our skill set worked great together. Like, he was more speed and I was more power, and then we put together, it was like thunder and lightning, you know.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024, 8 days away from the beginning of fall camp. Welcome into the program. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I'm David Nuño. This is the Rollo Insurance Studio. Good morning, buddy.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's going on in your world?
Well, same old stuff, getting ready for football, but I'm going to take this moment real quick to give a shout out. We always love our TexAgs listeners, readers, subscribers, followers, TexAggers. And so when they get in touch with you, I like to give them a shout out. So today, shout out to Ralph Torres from Weslaco, way down in the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah.
His son Champ graduated in 22, class of 22. They're big followers of TexAgs. So we appreciate you listening and watching and keeping up with us all the way down in the Rio Grande Valley.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Rio Grande
Thank you
represent.
so much.
So I had a similar.
What is it? Thank you. Is it gracias?
Gracias.
Gracias.
I had a similar situation yesterday.
Did you? Tell me.
I went to go visit my parents, as you know, right?
Uh-huh.
And I called their dentist because sometimes they need a little help so I was kind of rescheduling some work that they're going to get done. And as I'm waiting for them to reschedule it, the gentleman on the other side of the phone goes, "Nuño, how was the show today?" And it just caught me off guard. Like, huh? He's like, "Yeah, I listen every day. I love the Go Hour. I love you and OB together. I love Bronny. I love Lucci. You guys do great." And it was just like, it was out of the element. Like, I get it here from time to time, Gold's Gym, HEB, wherever, right? Like, I get it. Church. But, like, when I'm out of place and I don't know. It's just
it's the reach.
The reach. And Houston's close, obviously. But, like, I just don't expect it on hold at the dentist's office in Sugar Land.
Yeah, Quinn was telling me he was at one of the frat deals, and one of his frat brother's dad comes up to him and says, "I know who your dad is." And he's okay, but that Lucci guy drives me crazy. And this is an LSU fan.
Right. You're doing a great job when you drive people crazy. I mean, for what we do, like if everybody likes you, you suck at your job.
Yeah. I just like the idea that, people that are Texas fans and LSU fans and Alabama, wherever else are, they're keeping up with TexAgs and seeing what's going on. We are their source to know everything about what's going on with Texas A&M.
Well, hopefully about the SEC as well. But I very rarely listen to other fan base shows.
I never do.
And that doesn't mean I don't listen to Matt Moscona from time to time, or like for just to get some information, but never like to, yay, let's celebrate their loss or their. I don't do that except for one time.
One time.
I mean, I'm sure I've done it more than once.
What did Texas do?
No, it was LSU.
Oh, LSU.
It was after A&M beat LSU a couple years back when they had a chance to, make the playoffs,
2 years
right?
Ago,
2 years ago.
Devon A. Chain.
I remember people on the boards that evening like, you've got to watch the meltdown that they're having there.
Yeah.
So T-Bob was having a meltdown.
Yeah, well, that's different.
Yeah. And those are friends, right? So it was more like, let me watch what they're saying.
Yeah, I would like to watch, if I was so inclined, I'd watch T-Bob.
T-Bob's good.
I'm sure he is. And I know he tends to drop some F-bombs. And, hey, he's still funny, and that's okay with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Fun times yesterday hearing from the dentist, and then obviously the shout out for you. OB, I got a couple different things I want to get into this morning. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not going to do it yet.
Okay.
In the next segment.
Okay.
The beginning of 24 in 24.
Okay.
You don't know what number 24 is.
I don't. I have no idea.
Do you remember? Don't tell us, but do you remember what your 24 is?
No, I would.
I don't think we need to do it every day. Who's
I would
your
have
22?
to look it up, but I got an idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to do our 24th, which is now like, there's all these, this is officially football season. SEC Media Days is the entrance of this calendar year for me, right?
It's the on-ramp.
Right, the on-ramp, thank you. 24 and 24 is one of the hardest jobs to do because I think that there's a responsibility to be as fair as possible. And it's hard, right? Because, like, are we thinking about the future? Are we thinking about the right now? I do it more as the right now. My criteria is like today. That's not to say in a month into the season I could see that list changing and already in my mind thinking, oh, I know this guy's going to be a little bit higher on that list.
Yeah, when I make out my list, I don't necessarily have a concrete criteria for my rankings, but I go heavily on what I've seen them actually do. And I put more emphasis on what you've done than what your potential or what you're projected to do.
Right. Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we get to 24, and I'll kind of explain how I did mine. OB will, we'll break.
I'm looking at mine. I realized I sent 25. I don't know why
I did. Well, I thought you'd sent 25 as just in case.
Okay, but
next year, 25 and 25.
I'm ready.
We may cap it at 25. I don't know if we're going to go to a million. Like we may just do 25 and 26, 25 and 27. We may just.
It used to be 30.
Yeah, but then you have to start like in freaking April.
Yeah.
So we'll just do 25. All right. Question for you.
Yeah.
Easy answer.
Okay.
Very
those
easy.
Those are my favorite kind of questions.
As of today, how many teams that A&M is going to play are expected to make the playoffs?
Expected to make the playoffs. That's different than feeling like they got a good chance.
Right.
Expected, I would say 2 are expected.
Okay, how about this? Expected based on what we know about their schedule and their team, because I have a different answer.
That I think has a really good chance. I mean,
should be. They're in the should be category.
Well, I would say 4.
4's the answer.
And all 4 of them are at home.
Right. Notre Dame should, and I looked at their schedule. We can look at it here in a minute. Well, should be.
You got to play the ACC and Navy.
Missouri should be.
Great schedule.
Should be. LSU, I don't know about should, could, might, prob. I don't know. Like with their schedule, I don't see 3 losses on that schedule. I see 2 losses. Okay. Hopefully one of those to A&M. And then obviously, unfortunately, Texas, right?
Yeah.
4 teams. I don't think Nick has a graphic for Notre Dame's schedule, but I did kind of want to go through it.
He does. He guy screaming.
This guy is good, man.
I think Carson had something to do with it, though.
Carson, you made the schedule?
I think I did make this one.
I don't know.
Don't quote me. That's a Nick question, but I'm pretty sure I made this one.
All right, so look at this. Texas A&M to lead off.
Yeah.
A&M could be the reason Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs.
Well,
right?
I hope so.
Could be. All right. Yeah. I doubt week 1 will do that. But, all right. A&M, Northern Illinois, Purdue.
Yeah, that's a win.
Miami.
Win.
Louisville.
Well, Louisville beat them pretty handily last year.
But Louisville's lost some players.
Yeah. I would, especially that game's going to be in South Bend, so I would take. And when they played Louisville last year, it was the 3rd straight game against, they went on the road, 3rd straight game against a really good opponent. So I would take Notre Dame over Louisville.
Okay. Stanford.
Punching bag, yes.
Okay. At Georgia Tech.
Punching bag.
The fighting Haynes King.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
At Navy.
Keenan Reynolds no longer at Navy, so I'll take Notre Dame.
Florida State.
Okay, and then it's at home.
Potential.
But, yeah, that's a potential loss.
All right. Virginia.
Virginia is probably a win. Virginia's one of those weird teams. Every now and then they surprise you, but it'd be a surprise.
Okay. At Army.
Yeah, they win.
At USC.
And, USC, they throttled them last year with Caleb Williams.
Right.
Notre
Dame's got a great defense.
They're supposed to. Their linebackers are going to be a little bit of they're suspect. but the defensive line and the secondary, those that watch say that their secondary is going to be the best in the country.
So Notre Dame is a team that A&M can beat.
Yes, they can.
And as I would pick A&M to win that game at home today. I may change my mind as we get closer, but as of today, healthy Connor, I'm allowed to be optimistic in July. I'm going to say, so that you got that one. You've got the LSU game at home. I mean,
last time LSU came here,
they lost. The time before that, they lost, right?
Yeah. That was in that rainstorm in 2020.
Is that what it was?
Oh, no, 20. See, I'm getting on. They lost here in 22, and then in 2020 they lost in the rainstorm, and then in 2018 they lost. What was that? The 7 overtime game?
Yeah. So, bottom line,
3 in a row they've lost here.
Is it 3 in a row?
Well, like I said, there was the rainstorm.
No,
with Buddy
they
Jones.
won in
at here.
They
3
won
in a row here.
Yeah, that they've won or lost. I'm sorry.
A&M has won the last 3
I thought you
games
said they lost. I'm sorry.
LSU.
I missed you. Yeah.
Played at Kyle Field.
Yep. So, based on history, based on where I think LSU is going to be good. I do too.
But
not at Kyle Field. Good. Again, July, optimism reigns. Okay.
If you put LSU schedule up there, we'd probably come up with 10 wins.
Missouri.
I could see A&M beating Missouri.
Yeah, I can make an argument for it. If they're the Missouri team from last year and the A&M team from last year, by the way, different story. The A&M team that I expect to have this year with that really good defense, and I think the offense is going to move a lot more efficiently. I guess the point of this exercise is if A&M beats 4 potential playoff teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're in the playoff. Boom. So long as you don't, trip over your feet against Arkansas and South Carolina and New Mexico State, which beat Auburn last year. And Auburn.
It kind of goes along with the conversation we had yesterday about all your away games will probably be unranked teams, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Florida, Billy brought up yesterday on the show that if Florida does beat Miami, they might come in ranked for that. A&M would go there as a ranked team, but Florida would be. But things are aligned, and we've broken down the schedule before, but just considering the caliber of teams you're going to beat, that if you look at their schedule and the kind of year that they will probably have, I think Missouri's going to have a really good year. Maybe not the 11 wins that they want and expect, but they're at least a 9-win team when you look at their schedule.
Well, yeah,
probably a 10-win team.
Like I said, in conference play, based on last year's records, it's the easiest schedule in the SEC.
Texas will probably win 9 games this year.
Yeah, at least.
Uh-huh.
But, you have to give credit as credit's due. They look like they have a good team. Although, are they going to be as good at receiver, and are they going to be as good in the defensive line, which is why they were so good on defense? You couldn't run on them.
Yep.
Don't spend a year telling me how great, what's his name, Devontae Sweat is, and then act like, oh, he's no longer there, no problem. That's because we did that here back in 2013. Patrick Lewis and the guy who's quarterback, the tackle, won the Outland Trophy. Why am I blanking? His brother was the quarterback the next year as backup for Johnny.
You talk about
Luke Jokel.
Okay, Luke Jokel. Yep.
Yeah. So in 2012, those guys were stars. They left. They weren't on the team the next year, and we have people saying, "Oh, the offensive line is going to be just good." No, it's not. It's not. And that was the case at A&M, and that's going to be cases at other places when you lose. That's why I look at LSU and I say, it's not. I can't see how they're going to be as good. You can't lose those 3 guys on offense when you're an offensive-dominated team and be as good.
While I agree with you, in today's world of transfers, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
You ain't getting transfers like that.
No.
The transfers that Texas got at defensive tackle, I may be proven wrong on this, but I don't think that they're going to be a number 1 and a number 2 draft pick.
Right.
First round and second round draft pick.
And then
same with the receivers.
Those players are very good, but sometimes I bring up the point: are those numbers inflated, or is the value inflated because of the conference that they played in? I know that you're inflated when you play for the SEC, but that's because you're going against the best. Sometimes numbers are inflated because you aren't going against the best.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Look, the whole line of pick on somebody your own size.
Yeah.
Well, now they're going to have to pick on somebody their own size.
On a week-by-week basis. All right, that's Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of the mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Let's go around the room and talk to the people. By the way, if you want to call the show, 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms hotline. Let's go behind the glass and talk to the Nick Savage. Nick, good morning.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up, man?
Oh, nothing much. Y'all mentioned teams that are most likely going to make, not most likely, got a chance to make the playoffs on A&M's schedule. I think I'll hit it right on the head. If you could put the schedule up, Riley, so I can see it. I think Notre Dame's got the best chance, or one of the best chances. Missouri, are you kidding me? Just with looking at their schedule, there's a 3-game stretch in the middle of it. I think it's Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma. They could lose one of those games, or maybe even 2 and still make it into the playoffs if they handle business everywhere else. LSU obviously always has a chance, and I think Texas is another one in there. So I think I'll hit it right on the head.
Yeah, the Texas, Georgia, the top 2 teams. I wonder, even though it's kind of like last year, I still think Georgia was one of the 2 best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country.
Yeah, if Georgia had gotten to the playoff, I would have picked them to win.
Right? But and I know you got to play the schedules in front of you, but because of their schedule, I wonder what kind of SEC season they will have. If they drop 2, they'll still make the playoffs, obviously, and they still probably could win a national championship. But that is a rough schedule.
They open with Clemson, right?
Yeah, and then what will, in that kind of scenario, do we get Texas versus Missouri in the SEC championship game?
Yeah, it could happen. The 2 teams with the 2 softest conference schedules.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. It's July. All kinds of things can happen. And I think both of those teams are going to have such significant issues on defense that they're going to lose a game. They're going to lose one game because somebody's better than them, and they're going to lose at least another one because they just got outscored.
Yep. Because
the other team had the ball last. Kind of like their game against LSU last year. Now, they're not going to go against an offense as explosive probably as LSU was last year. But, again, call up drafthistory.com, click on last year, click on colleges, find Missouri, and look at all the defensive players from a okay defense. Wasn't great. It was okay. That are no longer there, as well as their defensive coordinator. And you're just asking a lot. I know you got Luther Burden, Theo Weiss, and Brady Cook, but you're still asking a lot for those guys to compensate what may be a generous defense.
Yep. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein, back-to-back days. Carson, good morning, buddy.
Morning, guys. How are y'all?
Good. Excellent.
I wanted to get in on this, what you were just saying, David, about Georgia's kind of tough schedule. I don't know if Nick would want to pull it up or anything, but they do have one of the toughest schedules in the country, and I feel like a lot of us are just giving them the pass, which rightfully so, they've earned it, but that's just something I've been thinking about.
I think I just didn't give them a pass. I just talked about their schedule. Yes, Carson, though. Look at that. Like, Clemson to start. I think Georgia wins. Obviously, neutral site game, but it's not really neutral. Tennessee. Is that Tennessee Tech? Yeah. Kentucky. At Kentucky could be tough, but Kentucky hasn't beaten anybody of ilk. At Alabama.
That's the wrong logo, by the way. Good one, Carson.
I don't know if I made that one.
I'm just kidding.
At Alabama
with the Dragon.
Yeah.
Alabama. So they're playing Alabama, Birmingham.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, look, they got to play at Alabama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss.
That's hard.
That is difficult.
But if you go 2-1 in that stretch, probably feeling pretty good.
You're in the playoff.
Yeah.
But that schedule, you're probably in the playoff at 10-2.
Do you think, as of today, would you pick Georgia to go to Texas and win?
Yes.
As of today, would you pick Texas to go to Michigan and win?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I don't have a problem, again, giving credit where credit is due. And I think Texas is going to be good, but I think they're going to be 9 or 10 wins good.
What else do you have for us, Carson?
I just wanted to say, wrapping up the baseball side of everything, Texas A&M right-hander Eldridge Armstrong III has signed an undrafted free agent contract with the New York Mets. And he has become the 8th Aggie to either sign or get drafted this past weekend or 2 weeks.
Good for him.
Congratulations.
Hope he does well.
I hope he does great. All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back, 24 in 24.
Okay.
You know what that
24
means?
for 24.
24? Yeah, 24 in 24.
24 in 24.
Yeah. Right now, though, sponsorship and vendor opportunities at the association. I know you believe in this message right here. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with other Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during awesome events that are held throughout the year. You got the marquee ones like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and Gathering, welcoming tens of thousands of guests. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of attendees. All of these events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. It's time for 24 in 24. Before I tell you who number 24 is, I want to thank FBS Appliance for sponsoring this segment. They're committed to delivering an exceptional experience from start to finish. You can trust them to provide unparalleled service and support every step of the way because FBS Appliance is your trusted appliance store. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas or find them online, factorybuilderstores.com. Before we tell the people, number 24, let's kind of remind folks how we do it now. It used to be you and Gabe would rack your heads together and come up with a list, right? Mm-hmm. Then it kind of evolved to me and you doing it, and Billy would give us a little direction. Then last year I decided to change it, and I said, you know what, let's let the subscribers be a part of the process. So they get a fourth of the vote.
Right.
So they get a fourth, you get a fourth, I get a fourth, and Billy gets a fourth. And the subscribers, including some of our TexAgs staff, kind of participated. And, they go in there and they vote. And so it's interesting. Maybe at the end of it, we can kind of compare some notes to see how it went. But let's give number 24. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Mark Naboo.
Mark Naboo. Man, I think he's going to be higher on this list.
He better be, right?
He started, 11 games at center and another game at guard last year?
Correct.
And I thought he played pretty well.
He did play well.
Scored a touchdown against LSU. Remember that 1 yard run? I said, well, why did it take so long for somebody to try something like this? Which was because you understand how difficult it was for A&M to pick up a yard in 3rd and short. But I think Mark Naboo is going to be one of those guys that the experience that he gained last year, plus the new offensive coordinator, plus the new strength and conditioning coach. I think all those factors are going to make Mark Naboo a better player. I think he's 100% in on football and getting better. And I think the only question I have about Mark Naboo, well, I guess I have two. What position he's going to play? Right. I assume it's going to be center. I assume.
Right.
And how good is he going to be? I think he's going to be a good player. I think he already is a good player. Is how big is the leap going to be?
Sure. Well, and a couple follow-ups to that. The interesting part about Naboo is he may not even end up being your starting center, and that's a good problem to have because the is it Kolinu Fa'u?
Yeah.
Right. He could end up winning that job, which is I'm not saying that as a disrespect. I'm saying that as a compliment to the position that you have a guy who has started and another guy who's coming in from Utah that can compete for this position, giving you not only depth, but just guys who have actually played. He's done it in the SEC. He's also versatile, can play multiple positions, and just a very bright, nice young man.
But if that happens, does he find his way into the starting lineup at guard?
Right.
I mean, he's a big, strong guy, and I assume he's even stronger. I mean, I haven't seen him like we've seen some of the guys, and we all know they look more defined.
Yep.
Would that be
yeah?
Right? So. And I assume stronger because I know that's what Tommy Moffitt was saying. He wanted to get him stronger. So he's already a strong guy.
He's strong. If you have Trey Zune at left tackle, right? Armaj Reed Adams at left guard, right?
Presumably. I'm sure Cam Dewberry have to say something.
Yeah, Cam's going to get mixed for either right or left, right? You have the center position that we've talked about with Mark Naboo or Fa'u. Is that Fa'u?
I guess.
Right guard. Chase Basantis or Cam.
I would assume Chase DeSantis.
Yep. And then right tackle, Crownover or Fathery, right? More than likely. Right. And I mean, there are other combinations and there's other players that have developed that we could see. I mean, in all these positions, I even mentioned TJ Shanahan. Where does he fit in?
So, who could be one of those guys that ends up being a starter? Because sometimes you see a guy come on that it happens every year. We didn't see this coming.
Right.
I think I think you just indicated that the depth is
better.
It's going to be much better.
It's better. And I want to go back to the column you wrote yesterday, right? I forget. Is it irate? Is that the word you used?
I said if I have an irate offensive line hire, yes, they're angry.
Well, and I think
according to Trey Zune,
even before SEC Media Days, we've talked about this on our show. We want our offensive line to eat meat off the bone, like be a hungry, mad group, right? Like that's what I want. I want good guys.
Yeah.
But I want that focus, that energy, and that anger all at once.
Yes, I like offensive linemen with defensive lineman dispositions, like a Steve McKinney, who came here as a defensive end and moved to offensive line.
Yep.
And he was a a complete and total badass and one of the best
still is
offensive linemen they ever had here. And it wasn't just the physical part; it was the mentality.
Yeah.
And I don't want. To me, yeah, I get defensive linemen are ferocious and all this, but the guys that I want to be is just the nastiest, orneriest, just dirty white boys and tough, brothers and all that. I want those guys, my linemen, to be those guys, just the tough. I like to. I'm not meaning this literally, but gangsters. Just the guys
with an A.
Yeah, with an A.
Yeah.
And just the guys that are just, nasty.
Yeah. And think about this.
But they got to be smart.
A year ago,
you can't play offensive lineman and be an idiot.
Had we told you Bryce Foster wasn't going to be your starting center coming into his junior year, it would have felt like, did he transfer for bad reasons? No, I think he wasn't guaranteed that spot, right? And they were moving in a different direction. You got a guy who's been there in Mark Naboo all spring, who's been working hard for it and earned it during the year, by the way.
Yeah. Look, I like Bryce Foster, but I think we've said this several times before, and I think it's pretty – there was a question of just how dedicated he was to football. I had heard from people that are reliable that he didn't show up in spring very often.
Mm-hmm.
I know he was hurt, but you can still show up with your team.
And also he was doing
track, but you can still show up and show support. And I heard he wasn't there very often. So I think it was one of those deals where they said, you know what, we got a guy that we think is better than him. And so
I remember when they were recruiting him, how glowingly Bronny spoke about him.
I loved the guy. I was so excited when he committed.
And then I think it was last year early on when he got, thrust into the starting lineup and he went and spoke to the media and talked a little bit about his humble beginnings and going to live in Fiji. I think with his aunt, if I remember correctly,
like
pig farmer, and didn't really know a lot about football until he moved. And just to see his growth in the freaking SEC, brother.
Yeah. I expect more.
So our team in the back put together some numbers for us. So I'm going to read you snaps by position in 2023. I believe Matthew Dawson did this. I might be wrong.
I would believe that.
I might be wrong here. But let's see where to go. Snaps by position. Left tackle, he had 8 in 2023. Left guard, 551. Okay. Center, it says this, 78, 71 of those came against ULM and did not play on the right side at all. It says here...
Wait. Are we talking about Naboo?
Yeah.
And we're saying, when did he only have 78 snaps at center?
Yeah, this can't be right.
Because he started at 11. I'm pretty sure he started...
according to this, 500. So we're going to fact check this. Dawson, double check this if you're the one who did it. Here's a couple other things. PFF grades.
Okay.
Total offensive grade is 60.0. Run blocking grade, a 57. Pass blocking grade, 67.8. Sacks allowed 2. Quarterback hits allowed 4. Hurries allowed 15. Pressures and penalties, he only had 4 penalties. So this is really good info right there.
Again, I think he's going to be better. I think there's so many factors. First of all, last year's a first-year starter. Think Edgerrin Cooper. What was he his first year and what was he his second year starter? Mm-hmm. A lot of guys get better in their second year. But I do think the difference in coaching and then the difference in training, I think you'll see him make a big jump. By the way, that's probably accurate. I was looking back. He started 11 games at left guard, 1 game at center.
And that being the one that we talked about.
I had dyslexia on that report.
All right. Let's do this. Let's hit a break. When we come back, by the way, congratulations, Mark Naboo, for 24 and 24. When we come back,
he's going to be higher.
Yeah.
Postseason, count on it.
And by the way, I want my offensive line, like all the things you said, yes. But I kind of just want quietly to have 5 guys in my 24 and 24 that are offensive linemen. We won't know really for a few months, but if at the end of the year you've got 5 or 6 dudes on there, then we're talking playoffs.
Maybe.
If you have 2 or 3 guys in the top 15, yes.
Okay.
With this talent, yes.
All right.
All right, let's talk a little QC Kinetics. If you have arthritic joint pain and it's keeping you from doing what you love to do, then I don't know what to tell you guys. You got to go get some help and get the good people at QC Kinetics to help you out there. They have these exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. They're helping patients like you every single day. They're the best at what they do. They're the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine, and we're talking about these cutting-edge treatments that just they're not surgery, they're not drugs. There's like no downtime at all. This is just getting to the root of the problem and fixing your issues out there, revitalizing your joints so you can move once again. They've helped out a lot of people here, so many people in the Brazos Valley, but they've helped out tens of thousands around the country. If you're living with this chronic joint pain from arthritis or you have considered steroids, no, you don't need to. You've considered surgery, no, you don't need to. If you got pain pills that you're taking, no, just have this. Get to the root of the problem. They're going to enhance your joints and restore your mobility and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. Get a free consultation right now. 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That's 979-452-6000. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I want to read this chat that came on the TexAgs chat, and I don't remember saying it like this, and if I did, I definitely want to clarify. Calvin says, Nuño, no way the Ags are expected to make the playoffs. The over and under wins is 7.5 and 8-4. Year won't get them in the playoffs. Neither will 9-3. I don't think we said that, and if I did, I certainly didn't mean it that way. Nick, do you remember how I presented that? I think I said if you beat 4 playoff teams.
Yeah, you definitely just said if you beat some of those opponents we highlighted earlier, they'll be in the conversation.
Yeah, and you obviously can't lose to the dumb games, right? But if you have the ability to win those games at home, and you take care of business on the road, does 9-3 get you in the conversation? I think it gets you in the conversation with that schedule. You won't probably make it at 9-3, but you're in the conversation in November.
I'll say this: I think 10-2 with 2 wins over either 2 wins between Texas, LSU, Missouri, and Notre Dame. 10-2 with 2 wins among those probably gets you in.
Yeah.
But you didn't predict they were going to beat those guys.
No,
you just were saying.
And I'm not predicting A&M to make the playoffs.
In that scenario.
Yeah. I have us, Texas A&M, as an 8-4, 9-3 team, which I had last year. With all the chaos, and I still think they should have been 8-4, 9-3 last year.
Well, they have chaos this year.
But a different kind of chaos.
They have Coach Chaos.
Coach Chaos.
Coach Chaos. I haven't met him yet. Have you?
Nope.
Maybe we'll meet him at the TexAgs kickoff this weekend.
It's this weekend, buddy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good. It's going to be good times. By the way,
it's always chaotic.
I think I did mention on the show, Buzz is going to have a panel after. I'm going to interview Buzz. And then after that, panel time, he's going to be talking to a couple of the coaches on campus.
Interesting.
It'll be fun. It'll be a good discussion. So, no, I'm not predicting A&M to make the playoffs. I don't think anybody here is. Now, if they live up to the potential that we know that they have, could they? Of course, right? Like, if they're a 10-2 team, yeah, I would expect them to make the playoffs.
Look, I'll say this. If on September 1st they're 1-0, they're going to be a serious playoff contender.
Keep talking because I got something stuck in my throat.
If they're 1-0 on September 1st, that means they have beaten Notre Dame. And if you already have a win over Notre Dame, hell, sometimes you can just beat a bad Notre Dame team and the national media say that you're back.
That's true.
So if you can beat a good Notre Dame team, and I don't know if they can. Well, yes, I do. I know they can. I don't know if they will. But if they do, then they're a national playoff contender. If they lose that game, you're already, on the tightrope.
Yep. You said in the last segment about the growth that you saw from Edge from first year to second year when we were talking about Mark Naboo, and then oftentimes from second year to third year. And it got me thinking, one of the topics I had on the show today is, are you familiar with Pro Football Network? They do these mock drafts, and Ian Cummings is one of their guys, and he's got his mock draft with 4 Aggies going in the draft next year, and then some former players as well. I kind of want to go through it, just get your thoughts on it. He's got Ruben Fothery being drafted in the 6th round, 162nd overall to the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
Shamar Turner, 4th round. I'm hoping that's a little bit higher.
That's steal.
4th round to the New England Patriots as the 133rd pick. Are you familiar with Connor Wigman?
I am.
He's got him going in the 3rd round to the Seattle Seahawks.
Okay.
Is
that when they took Russell Wilson in the 3rd round?
Was it 3rd or 4th?
I don't know.
I think it was 4th. I
know Joe Montana was the 3rd round pick.
Maybe it was 3rd round. Nick Scorton. 1st round pick, 20th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. I could see this very well playing out.
All right, I'm all for it.
Are you interested in knowing some former A&M players being drafted?
Yeah, let's talk about Walter Nolan and Evan Stewart.
Where do you think he's got? Who do you think he's got going the highest of the former A&M players?
Walter. No? Evan Stewart?
Evan Stewart.
Really?
2nd round.
Oh.
31st pick overall to the Washington Commanders.
Okay. As a Cowboys fan, this pleases me.
Round. Who do you think is the 2nd guy picked up?
I would assume Walter. Is it not?
No, it's not Walter.
Who else would be
It's
out
a second-round pick.
Foster?
Not Foster.
Am I have to
I don't think you're going to get it. So
yeah, probably not.
By the way, I think we all like this guy. Great personality, which
Haynes?
He was still no, not Haynes. Fidel Diggs.
Fidel Diggs. Yeah, I liked him.
Fidel Diggs, Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions taking him 61st overall. And then in the third round, Walter Nolan, Carolina Panthers pick him up.
Well, now who they say was going to take?
Ruben Fothery?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fothery is going to go to the Panthers in the
and
6th.
the Patriots were going to take our man Turner.
Correct, Shamar Turner.
Okay.
Now, could others be on this list at the end of the year? Shamar Stewart could absolutely be in the conversation. There's others that we could see get in the mix.
You know, I'm really interested in seeing on the defensive line this year if he's healthy. I've been waiting on Gabriel Brown-Odindi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, last year in the bowl game, he flashed.
Yeah.
He played some, he flashed, and he made some plays.
DJ Hicks, you expecting some things
from
him?
I think DJ is going to be the next Justin Matabike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Justin, DJ, Matabike, Hicks.
I like that. Good little nickname. So that's what Pro Football Focus has for their draft, and Pro Football Network, has for their draft, and the Ags getting in there. Interesting. Nick Scorton, though, 20th overall. If he has a banger year with the Aggies, that's going to go higher.
Yeah, I could see him having I'm really looking forward to that pass rush because I can see it being better than it was last year, and it was pretty good last year. The only difference is you don't have Edgerrin, but you got Cassius Howell coming in, who's got some skins on the wall as a pass rusher, and so the word is Shamar Stewart might be that breakout guy. And Shamar Turner's already broken out.
Yep.
So you start putting DJ Hicks, and you're getting an inside pass rush, and then you got Scorton and Stewart coming along. And if I want to blitz, I got Howell. I see a lot of possibilities there.
So to break, by the way, we're doing extended OB today.
It's OB today.
OB here on the Go Hour, extended to about 9:15 or so. Right now, we're talking about Rollo Insurance, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. Talked to Jackson yesterday. We're going back and forth on text. You need to reach out to them with all your insurance needs, whatever it may be. Kids that are about to start driving, older folks that shouldn't be driving. Look, I'm dealing with it all here. I can just be very honest with you guys. But Rollo is the ones to take care of you. They've got offices all over the place, South Texas and Houston. They've got DFW. They got Tyler. They got Austin. They got San Antonio. Everything west of I-35, including the Panhandle, and, of course, outside of Texas. But in Texas alone, they got 53 offices. And their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. Car insurance issues, they got you. Homeowner insurance, they got you. Farmers, ranchers, hobby farmers, business owners, whatever it may be, they want to take care of you. And their priorities, God, family, and country. The difference is real at Rollo Insurance. The phone number is 888-44-ROLLO or go to rolloinsurance.com. That is 888-44-ROLLO or go to rolloinsurance.com. Go check it out. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Boss Firearms hotline, by the way. Boss Firearms, your local experts. They buy used guns, ammo, and accessories. Go to bossfirearms.com and start earning money like a boss today. Let's go talk to Roll, who wants to talk a little bit about the wide receivers here on TexAgs Radio. Roll, good morning.
Hey, David, how are you?
Doing wonderful, man. Thanks for calling in the show.
Yeah, no worries. And I just thought my name is pronounced it's Roel, like Noel, but with an R.
Okay.
Roel. What up, man?
Yes, sir. Not much, guys. Appreciate the time this morning. I just had a quick question around the wide receiver group.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a question mark for the team this year, and wanted to pick y'all's brains about who you think is going to step up for the Ags and be the top wideout. And in addition to that, are we expecting to see more youth out of the tight end group? And, who do you think will be a leader there?
Great questions. Appreciate that. OB, let's start off with wide receiver. I think Noah is your not obvious, but he's the leading candidate to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ja'Day Walker is going to be what he was last year, a little better than he was last year because it took him a little while to get going. He's going to be a consistent threat for A&M, but I think the alpha should be Noah Thomas if he stays healthy. And then I think an X factor, and I'm giving everybody props here, so I apologize for that, but if Moose is reined in and plays, because his playing time's been his big issue. He can make plays.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can play all season long, then he's going to certainly be somebody. But I still think from the size, the physicality, the muscle he's put on, Noah Thomas would be my first pick there.
I would project that Noah Thomas would be the most consistent guy.
Yep.
I would project that Moose Muhammad will be your primary big play threat, and that Walker will be more of a possession receiver, a guy that kind of like if you think Jamon Osmond back in the day.
Yep.
With the ability to make a big play, but more of that guy that just makes a big catch. And yes, I think the tight ends will be more of a factor. I think having Donovan Green back healthy, I think is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw more from Orstrom this year. And of course, the kid helped me out. The kid who transferred from Fresno.
Trey Watson.
I think, he's going to be a factor too. So I think.
Well, look, in a Colin Klein offense, they're going to use the tight end.
I think you're going to see the tight end used more effectively. But as the receivers go,
it is a question mark.
It is, and there's not a whole lot of depth there, proven depth anyway.
Uh-huh.
I like the kid from Louisiana Tech.
Yeah,
but I don't know what to expect from him.
Unfortunately, Jabri Barber's not going to play for a while or at all. We don't know.
And the Tease kid,
Micah Tease,
he's shown some, but you need to stay healthy there, and then you need to hope that all those guys can live up to. They all have the potential to do great things. And I was really impressed with what you got from Walker last year.
Yeah,
I think Walker was a bonus last year.
He was a bonus. He had basically the same stats as Evan Stewart.
He had better stats than Evan Stewart.
So when you look at that group in general, just your pass guy, like if Donovan Green plays like he did as a freshman, and obviously better because of the experience, he's a guy that hopefully, if healthy, is going to provide you some length there and some playmaking ability. They're very high on Trey Watson. They just got a lot of potential, but it's unproven potential as a group.
Yeah, so take that next step and go from potential to production. And, I think they'll be okay there.
Yep.
But, they have to prove it.
Lowell, thanks for the phone call. OB, go hours. Huh? Roel, excuse me. We're going to do a little bit more.
Okay.
The extended OB.
Extend me.
That and more. TexAgs. TexAgs Radio presented by David Garner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2, extended go hour with OB, thanks to our friends at the warehouse at CC Creations. Sometimes on days we just go a little bit longer with OB. Olin, were you surprised, and maybe you weren't, that Bobby Petrino wasn't a bigger talking point at SEC Media Days? And had it been 2015, had it been 2020, I think it would have been.
Yeah.
But because of the new additions and the conference realignment and the playoffs and the personalities there, I'm not surprised. But I still think we think about that entire scenario of him going back home.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I think it was just like when there's normally good news that comes, or I don't mean good news, but a news item that comes out on a busy day. You might be at the bottom of the front page because if it had been the day before, you might be at the top, right?
Sure.
Like, for instance, let's say something really interesting happens on the day. Maybe a president announced he's not going to, run.
Right.
And there may be several other stories that involve that as well. And then the next thing you know,
it gets buried.
It gets buried. And I think that's what happened with Bob Petrino. There's just too many other things going on. Like you alluded to.
Like with Arkansas in general, because they do play A&M at the end of September, I don't think they're going to be good. I think they might be terrible. And I'm sorry I haven't watched Talon Green play enough to have a real opinion. Right. I've seen him play a little bit, but they weren't good with a guy we know was a good quarterback. But they didn't have Bobby Petrino.
That's true, too.
Has Bobby Petrino lost his fastball? Look, regardless...
Did he get out of the bullpen here?
Well, regardless of what you think about Jimbo and his relationship and the way the offense that they called, the offense was better last year than the year prior. It was significantly better. A touchdown better. That's significant.
Okay.
What does that mean for Arkansas with not the same talent that A&M has and that schedule?
Well, Arkansas typically finds a receiver or two that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And Petrino's background is finding a way to get him the ball. It just didn't happen here the way we thought it might. And, we can always debate the reasons for that. I'm with you. I don't see Arkansas as being a particularly good team. I don't know that they're going to be terrible. They might be.
Yeah.
But I would think they're going to be one of those teams that's hovering around 5 to 6 wins. If maybe they can get this break.
But this Green kid, let me rephrase this. If they had KJ Jefferson.
Yeah. And I think I may be the only guy here that really thought really highly of KJ as a quarterback.
I thought highly of KJ.
Okay.
Not as high as you did, but I he was really good. He was excellent, right? But if they had KJ Jefferson, they went 4-8 last year with KJ Jefferson with a bad offense, right?
Right.
With Bobby Petrino and KJ Jefferson, do they go 4-8 this year?
Okay, well, they beat Pine Bluff, so they're 1-0. I would not be surprised if they beat Oklahoma State. I think it's a toss-up game, but on the road they probably lose 1-1. They're going to beat UAB 2-1. Probably lose at Auburn 3-1. Lose to A&M.
1-3.
I mean 1-3. Lose to
1-4.
No, I got them 2 games. 2-2 going to Auburn. They're 2-3 at A&M. 2-4 Tennessee. 2-5 LSU. I'm going to give them Mississippi State even on the road. So 3-5 Ole Miss they lose. 3 Texas they lose. They beat Louisiana Tech. So they're looking at 4-8 again.
That's with KJ Jefferson.
But there'll probably be another win in there. There could be another. But it's SEC. Sometimes you're not ready to play, and other team is.
So, but is that under the current Arkansas, or if they had KJ Jefferson?
No, that's current Arkansas.
Okay. If they had KJ Jefferson, same record?
Probably, because I'm one of those guys. Look, quarterback obviously is the most important position. We all know that. But I'm the guy that thought Florida State got screwed royally last year because they didn't get the playoff with an undefeated season. And the answer was, well, they lost their quarterback, which I always go back to, okay, well, what happened at USC then?
Yep.
Because it's still the ultimate team game. Now, you can't go out there with an incompetent quarterback and expect good things to happen. But if you have a guy who's a legitimate SEC quarterback, you have a chance to do some good things. But what's the team around you? And like Brady Cook at Missouri, everybody knows he's an accomplished quarterback. But what if their defense is giving up 40 points a game? if you average 38 points a game, does that mean you're a bad quarterback?
Well, the reason I bring this all up is because Talon Green is compared to KJ because of his size and his ability. And one thing we know about a Bobby Petrino offense is that he likes to have quarterbacks that can move. Lamar Jackson, obviously. Not that Ryan Mallett was a big mover, but I guess my point is KJ Jefferson could move. He's no longer there. He's at UCF. Talon Green, I'm looking at some of his numbers there at Boise State, and he can move. He can absolutely move. 6'6", 220. That's a big dude.
Yeah.
Actually, 6'6", 220 sounds skinny.
6'6" sounds good. But you're right. But I go back. I don't get caught up with the size of the quarterback. It means nothing to me. I tell you why. Robbie Ashford.
Right.
Okay.
He was bad. And he beat A&M 2 years ago.
Hey, this guy isn't bad, but he wasn't good. Max Johnson, big guy.
Yeah.
And I've seen little guys, Menzel guy, for instance, that, so.
Was dynamite.
Can you play? And can you play at this level? I'm not going to say the Green can't, because I haven't seen him, but to just say, hey, he's a big guy and he did well at Boise State. Okay. And?
Different game, brother.
So, just like I say, A&M receivers got to prove themselves. This guy definitely has to prove himself. And even if he proves himself,
they still
may go 4-8.
Right. And we've talked about this on the show before, but do you see Sam Pittman making it out of September?
Out of September, if they're 2-2, yeah.
But they're going to lose those games. Is it Auburn, A&M, and then Tennessee, I think?
Yeah.
Is that right? 3 games in a row, or 3 out of 4 games, I believe?
Yeah, like I said, I think they'll be 2-2, and then they'll fall apart.
By the way.
But they always give A&M a tough game.
They do. And last year wasn't too tough.
Well, they almost always give A&M. I got to be honest, I can't even remember last year's game.
And didn't we get the defensive touchdown late to kind of extend it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, that game, now that I do remember, it was the Bryce Anderson deflecting a ball that Chris Russell caught. But that game, again, crazy things happened. They got the pick six early, to start the second half, and it was actually Anias with the long punt return that now enabled A&M to pull away. But I keep thinking about the oink doink and some of the games where they had the lead and they beat them up, kicks off to Christian Kirk, and it's like that goes in overtime.
They were up 17-6, and then Arkansas had the pick six to make it 17-13. I'm looking at the numbers here.
Yeah, it was a game.
It was a game, and then in the fourth quarter, Anias with the 82-yard punt return. And then still, Arkansas scored once again because it was 34-16. You think the game is over. I remember we were working our way to the field when that happened. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, bizarre things happen in that game. Fortunately, they usually happen to A&M's favor, except the one where the interception went off the center's helmet.
So we're talking quarterbacks here. Can you believe, and I know the answer is yes, because you can believe anything except maybe a Martian walking into the studio, that Haynes King is entering his 5th year in college football?
Yeah, it does seem crazy, doesn't it?
I remember him being, we've watched his career, right? He was a young, up-and-coming guy, and I remember, next year he could be in the conversation for, that was the talk around 21, right? If he lives up to his potential, watch out. He's better than Kellen Mond, and he had a rough stay here at A&M.
Yeah.
But he had a nice season last year with Georgia. He threw some interceptions, which we know he can do.
And that's the knock, or the problem. It's not even a knock because it's true. The problem with Haynes is his tendency to make, it's kind of like Dak Prescott, the loud mistake. Yeah, every quarterback makes mistakes, but he made mistakes that just reverberated. Like I'm talking about Alabama that year, when they almost won, but just before the half. Just run out of bounds, throw the ball away. Instead, he throws up a what are you trying to do?
That changed the entire game.
It turns out to be an interception. They kick a field goal, and they take the lead at the half. You're like, what are you doing? Why are you letting the other team stay in? And there were so many not penalties, but so many fumbles and just bad decisions. That's what it is on it. It's bad decisions.
Inopportune times.
Right. Under pressure. Bad decisions under pressure. That's Haynes' problem.
So he spoke yesterday at ACC Media Days, and they asked him about where he's seen the biggest growth. He says, probably being a leader in my first year at Georgia Tech. You're still learning your teammates, who they are, what motivates them. and it kind of goes into some of his numbers from last year. Georgia Tech was a top 50 scoring offense in the ACC, but 31 points a game. He threw for 2,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, but did have 17 turnovers, 16 of those interceptions. Only one fumble, though. One lost fumble.
7 turnovers? Because I thought you said
17 turnovers.
17?
17
in one season?
Yeah.
See,
16 interceptions, 1 fumble lost.
Wow. So there you go. I mean,
he threw for 37 touchdowns.
Okay. 17 turnovers is just.
He's a gamer, though.
Yeah, Johnny had. Is he?
Yeah, I think.
I remember his first game. His first real game against Kent State, and he had a long scramble for a first down.
We thought this is a sign of things to come.
Yeah. And then he gets hurt the next week, right?
Colorado.
And then
second drive, second play.
And then the next year he comes back. So we're saying, okay, now it's time. And they have to bench him against Appalachian State, right?
Yep.
And they're like, and I guess that's when we knew, okay, Jimbo, why were you doing a disservice to him by telling everybody this is an NFL quarterback?
Right.
You just lost to Appalachian State, and you had Evan Stewart and Devon A-Chain and Anaya Smith on the field, to weapons. And, remember there at the end, he had 2 wide open receivers for a key first down.
Did he skip a ball?
He skipped both. One of them, he skipped it. I think it was to Nias.
Right.
And then the last one, it was to Kid's Not Here Anymore from Miami, Keith Brown.
Yep.
And he's open in the flat, getting the ball, and it's a first down, and maybe and he throws it, and it's 4th down, throws it so short, Keith had to dive forward to get it. So as soon as he caught it, he was down, and you're like, he just bad decisions. Yeah, stats are good. Okay, if you're going to be stats, but you can't have 17 turnovers as a quarterback.
No,
you just can't.
You can't
unless you're Johnny Manziel.
But the 30-plus touchdown passes, I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. It's because ACC Media Day is happening as Big Ten Media Days are happening. I thought this was interesting.
Okay, what?
You may not. It's not even a big deal.
Okay, what?
Dan Lanning voted as the preseason Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Okay, they're expecting big things at Oregon.
Yeah, and I expect them to have a nice season too. I find it interesting because they're the new guys, right? And Ryan Day, this is a huge year for him.
Yeah,
they spent more money than anybody. They have freaking Quinshon Judkins. They have the Michigan is down. They're going to be down. Sorry, they're going to be down. And Ryan Day doesn't get picked, and Dan Lanning does. I just find it interesting. Oh, and by the way, the Big Ten preseason Offensive Player of the Year. You know who it is?
I don't.
Dylan Gabriel.
Boy, they're not giving a lot of props to the Big Ten teams, right? To the old guard there.
So I just found that to be like an interesting talking point. Dylan Gabriel getting it, and also Dan Lanning. And by the way, I think they're going to be really good.
Where's Dylan now?
Oregon.
Oh, he's at Oregon. Yeah, that's right. So they're expecting Oregon to just go out. It's going to be that Gabriel to Stewart combinations. It's going to carry Oregon and make Dan Lanning the coach of the year.
And then, so you look at that. That's the expected win totals for the Big Ten. Michigan's an 8.5. That's where they're at.
Yeah, here's what they do. They're not giving Ryan Day the credit because,
I can understand why.
But they spent all that money, and they're saying, poor little old Oregon with no money to spend. Oh, wait a minute. Is anybody ever going to outspend Oregon?
Nobody.
But it's Big Ten. I don't care what those guys up in the Great Lakes think.
Well, and like no talk of Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback who was at
K-State,
and he was really good at K-State, by the way. But he also did have a certain offensive coordinator that we're very familiar with. But I don't know. I'm thinking to myself, Penn State's always in same.
That's the team to watch out for.
I said that last year.
Yeah, I'm saying it this year.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't want to let myself believe it, but the team that could be the interesting team in the Big Ten that could make some noise and be Nebraska.
Oh, I think they could.
Yeah.
They were a different team towards the end of the season.
I like rooting against them.
Matt Rhule's a good coach.
because they take it so hard. But, I look at all those teams in the Big Ten, and then I think about SEC, and I'm saying, how could anybody ever question what's the better conference? Okay, Ohio State, yeah.
Top
Oregon,
heavy.
Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. That's not
and I think USC from year to year. No, not right now. But,
yeah.
But they have their moments, obviously, right? Nebraska, I think, is going to be a better program. But after that, disaster.
Yeah. It falls off pretty fast.
It does fall off very fast. From that list, 3 Big Ten teams make the playoffs?
Yeah, probably. And it's probably those top 3, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State.
4 SEC teams, 3?
I would, if we were, placing bets on it, I would put 4.
4 from the SEC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe 5, but I'd pick 4.
Would you predict Ohio State to be in the championship game today?
I don't know. I mean, they were, they had a good record, but they really weren't that good last year. The Notre Dame gifted them a win.
Yep.
But
they got some players, man.
Yeah, they're like a girl in Dallas. What they don't have, they'll buy.
All right. Well, and we'll see what Quinshon Judkins does there, but he's an elite back, but a little bit more of a headache than I think we all knew. We knew he could be, but apparently from all the Ole Miss insiders I talked to, it wasn't. It's kind of like with some of the losses here. You're like, yeah, I'd like to have him, but it's okay.
Well,
at what cost?
Hey, if you're paying, let's say if he's, if he's financially happy,
yeah,
then he could be I expect he'll be a significant addition to that team.
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed having him.
Is there a better running back
than Quinshon Judkins? I think he was the best last 2 years.
I like the guy at Michigan, Corum.
Yeah,
I liked him.
Like Donovan Edwards.
Yeah,
he's still there. He's still there.
But Judkins is putting behind a big old offensive line
and Big Ten defenses.
Might have to put him on that Heisman list.
Yeah. Ob, thanks for staying longer.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, buddy. All right, we'll take some phone calls and get to some other storylines here on TexAgs Radio, 979-693-1150. If you call, we'll pick it up on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Right now, we're talking Schulte Roofing, an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, residential services to Belleville, to Brenham, to College Station, to Navastota, to San Antonio, Conroe, the Woodlands. They are the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. I'll say it again. Schulte Roofing is the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee, the industry's absolute best roofing system, roof installation, warranty, and 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. They've been around for a long time, humble beginnings since 1994, and they're committed to excellence, and they've grown into a top 100 roofing company. You need to call them up for a quote, 1-800-4ROOF. That number again is 1-800-4ROOF, or go to SchulteRoofing.com. That website again is SchulteRoofing.com. 1-800-4ROOF. It is Schulte Roofing, home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. Hey, everybody. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in. So we're going to have Chris Gordy on. We didn't talk during SEC media days because, we can catch up with him at all times. We do have an open segment if you want to get some text messages in or call in the show, 979-693-1150. What do you think of 24 and 24, number 24, Mark Naboo? If he has a big year, I think that's going to point us in the right direction, and there's obvious reasons for that. We always talk about the offensive line being this big issue, but there are other areas that need to take it up a notch. And we ad nauseum have talked about defensive backs, but what if the running backs are like 2021 running backs of A&M, right? What if it's like Spiller and A-Chain level of backs? Now, I'm not saying that they need to be NFL starting caliber running backs. Obviously, I would love to see Ruben and Le'Veon and Amari, all those folks, become big players. But if you got a couple guys that are inching in on the 1,000 yards and they're reliable, especially in short yardage situations, what does that do for the way you look at this team? Because when we talk about the success that A&M has, it goes multiple directions. It goes to the offensive line. And obviously, to have a good running game, you need a good offensive line. But let's just say they help each other in that, right? We talk about Connor at quarterback. We talk about O-line. We talk about the defensive backs because we kind of expect for the defensive line to, not kind of, we do expect the defensive line to eat and eat quite a bit. But if I tell you that, hey, the offensive line obviously is improved, but the running game is significantly improved, significantly, where even 21 where they went 8-4, but you knew you could count on Isaiah Spiller and Devon A-Chain to get you the yardage that you needed to have. If you have that, how does that kind of change the way you look at it? 979-693-1150. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know Carson's got stuff for us. Carson?
I do. We got a text from Madden in Houston saying, need at least 2 more wide receivers to step up and provide quality depth. Somewhat 300 to 400-yard guys.
Cyrus Allen could be that guy. It's hard to predict people we haven't seen play. Like a year ago, how much were we talking about Ja'Day Walker? I don't know if we were. But Cyrus Allen has done it. It's not Cryas, it's Cyrus. 778 yards last year, 4 touchdowns, 46 receptions. He had an 85-yard touchdown. That dude can flat out move. If he gives you, let's just say he gives you similar numbers to Ja'Day Walker that you saw last year, what does that do for the season? Right? I'm talking about little points. But in an unproven wide receiver room, if Cyrus Allen turns out to be a guy that you can rely on and get some big yardage from, he doesn't have to be the Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech. He could be some sort of Ja'Day Walker, with Moose, right, with Noah. Then I think we're talking about a really good year. What else, Carson?
I want to go back to that point real quick before we move on. Don't forget about the freshman wide receivers like Isaiah Williams, Ashton Bethel-Roman, potentially Terry Bussey. I mean, it's a lot of unproven guys, but the room's pretty deep.
Yeah, there's some dude and there's some speed in there. It is a deep room that is unproven, and until they prove it, you can't go out on a limb. I mean, can you go out on a limb and say, I think Ashton Bethel-Roman's going to do? Yeah, of course you can. But based on what we've seen at spring practice, and some of these guys haven't even been out there, you're cautious. You're cautiously optimistic about several areas that haven't proven it yet. Defensive back being a huge one. Wide receiver, you're a little bit more hesitant because I don't know how deep it really is. But you do have some guys, and if they live up to their potential, it changes the entire conversation. What else?
We got a text from Eddie in Austin who sent a Twitter link, and it's by Matt Miller, an NFL draft scout, who said, you're going to hear a lot about how the 2025 NFL draft class is the biggest probably ever.
Biggest as in big size?
Most players ever in the draft because everyone's taking advantage of redshirt and COVID years.
Yep.
And he said to make a point, Arkansas has 19 players on his scouting watch list. That means 19 players have been tabbed as NFL calibers by players and scouts and coaches.
Does it have what A&M's number is?
No, he just put Arkansas just because that's the closest one to him area-wise.
Interesting. I fully expect. Yeah, when you think about the extra COVID year of eligibility and the older sports, right? We saw it in baseball because of that extra year. Yeah, you're going to see some real eligible guys, but I think the younger players are the ones that are going to make the biggest splash. Nick, I'm going to read you this quote from Brent Venables. I want you to give me your initial thoughts because then I'm going to follow up with what mine are, okay?
All right.
He says about going to the SEC. You're not going to sneak up on anyone, any week, in any venue and show up and have luck to win. It's a conference that it's about earning what you get, and I think going through a season, you'll figure that out. What do you think?
I think that everyone in the SEC would agree with it, and it seems like he's gotten the memo. I think I know where you're thinking about taking this.
I'm not going to go there per se. I'm just going to say that's the right mindset to have.
I agree, 100% agree.
Some people may have these you're lucky to have us in your conference kind of thing, and we understand this okay, yeah. And this is more for fans than it is for the coaches and the players. It's different, guys. It's just different. And you won't know. It's like, Nick, you don't have kids, right?
I do not.
That you know of. So, sorry, that was rude. I apologize. That you claim. Anyway, Nick, you can tell me you understand what it is to be a parent, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know.
Yeah, it's.
No, I get it. Yeah. I have a friend. I won't say his name, but he had a kid within the last year, and he's forever. He's like, dude, I get it. Yeah, you change diapers, you take them to school. I get it. It's easy. That's not what it is. There's a mental anguish and happiness, and there's so many different variables to being a parent that I've reached a point in my life. It's hard for me to be cool with people who don't have kids. Doesn't mean I'm not cool with you. Obviously, I like Nick. I like Carson. I like Billy. But people with kids, we just kind of get it. There's a different level of understanding. We just kind of look at each other yeah, I know. Kid crying at the grocery store, I feel I bet you, because I know how I was when I was 25, and I'll make this about football here in a second. But when I was 25, if I'm on a plane and there was a kid crying, I'm like, dude, shut that kid up. And now I'm like, I really wish that kid would be quiet, but I get it. Maybe I can do a little game and get him to laugh a little bit. Maybe I can help the dad out, the mom out. You have to live it to understand it, right? You can tell me you understand the SEC, but until you get beat up and battered on a year that you expect to go 10-2, you don't understand the SEC, right? Before Georgia became this juggernaut that they are, they were really good, right? The Mark Richt years were really good. They get the SEC because even on years that they were good in 10-2 and not getting into those playoffs those years, right? Or the BCS, you could be really good and not get the season that you expect. I'm sorry, the year A&M went 8-4 and they weren't good, they would have gone 10-2 in the Big 12. And they could have absolutely gone 10-2 that season. 1,000% they could have gone 10-2 that season. They could have lost another game too. They could have lost a Colorado game. Let's not forget about that. But I like Brent Venables, and again, he won't really know until he lives it. He knows. He's been around. He gets it. But you don't know until Arkansas smacks you in the throat. Or not Vandy. They don't smack people in the throat anymore. But other teams, South Carolina, you think you're going to go on a night game and play in South Carolina. You expect, no, South Carolina hasn't won jack. And then they score 17 unanswered points on you to start off the game. Right? That's life in the SEC. And that's the part that Texas and Oklahoma can say they understand, but they won't understand until they live it. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back, Gordy. We're talking Chris Gordy here on TexAgs Radio. But right now, if you're hungry, and I think it's a couple hours away from hunger time, right? But you could be hungry right now. You should go to Varsity Grill House. They're the perfect place to satisfy all your food cravings. Yeah, they got your typical burgers and your tacos and all that, but it looks beautiful on the plate. The food is delicious out there. They are Aggie-owned and conveniently located in front of the Academy there on Highway 6. They have an awesome atmosphere. You go there, you'll see a lot of sporting items. It's just but it looks clean. It looks new. It is clean and new. And it just feels like kind of a classy kind of vibe to it. 4 Farm steaks are there. They have the sizzling burgers. They have mouth-watering dishes. And they have got all the cocktails you can imagine. They've got something for everyone. And they've got the mason jar desserts. They got it all, right? And let them cater your events as well because they can do it at the highest level. Great gatherings that they can go by and make sure that you have great food there from Varsity Grill House where you can taste the difference. Varsity Grill House is your home for good times and great food. Go check it out, Varsity Grill House. And we're back here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I find it funny. Chris Gordy and I are buddies, right? Heart, he's all over the place, locked on SEC. But at SEC Media Days, we talk for like 6 minutes, and then it's like, we'll catch up after because we know we can get each other on each other's show anytime. We don't really do a lot of work together during the SEC Media Days, but we do catch up afterwards, and he's joining us here on the program. What's up, Gordy?
What's up, David? Yeah, it's funny. We were like two trains passing in the night. It was like you were doing your thing, I was doing my thing, and we're like, we'll catch up later.
Hey, so I had a topic that I just kind of started thinking about it. Do you think Texas and Oklahoma fans, not coaches, actually know what they're getting into? Like, I know that Sark gets the SEC because he's coached in the SEC. Brent Venables doesn't have to coach in the SEC to understand. But I feel like until you get knocked in the mouth as a team that's supposed to go 10-2 and lose to, I don't know, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Florida, until that happens to you, you don't realize, like, it's just different, and you have to kind of live it. You have to have these battle scars, and maybe Texas doesn't get it for this first year with that schedule. But I don't know if they really know what they're getting into.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I kind of go back to talking to a lot of people at SEC Media Days last week. It's an interesting parallel to when A&M and Missouri came into the conference 12 years ago. I think both were happy to be out of the Big 12 and happy for new horizons of the SEC, but I feel like both fan bases were very realistic. I remember going on, for my first time stepping on campus at College Station and hearing, howdy, we're just happy to be here, SEC. And it was like, okay, y'all are bringing the right mentality. I didn't hear any Aggie fan yelling, we're going to run this SEC. Like, nobody felt that way. Missouri the same way. And Missouri actually ended up winning the East a couple of times. Of course, Manziel Mania takes off with A&M. So both schools had immediate success in entering the SEC. But I just feel like the Oklahoma and Texas mentalities, yeah, the fan bases are coming in a little bit more, I don't want to say full of themselves, but confident to the point that it's a little bit cocky and arrogant. Now, that's more so Texas than Oklahoma. A lot of Oklahoma fans I've talked to are a little bit more realistic. They're saying, look, 9-3 with this schedule will be phenomenal. I think they're a little bit more measured. Texas is very different. They're coming off their first playoff appearance, and they're thinking, well, this is just going to happen every year under Stark. He's just going to recruit at a high level, and we're just going to do this every year. I tend to think, man, there's a little bit of a transition there. And the big thing is, David, it's the trench play. It's the offensive and defensive line. You might look at that schedule and go, yeah, road trip to Arkansas, that's an automatic W. Yeah, but what's it coming after? Is it coming after a battle with Oklahoma and a battle with Georgia where you're beat up? You're beat up in the trenches. I think about this every year when LSU and Alabama had their rivalries going. That next game, Bama always came out flat. LSU always came out flat because they were tired. They were drained. They were beat up from that difficult war the week prior. And sometimes you don't bring your A game that next week. That's when you lose. That's what makes the SEC great. We're just 2 years removed from Vanderbilt beating Florida and Anthony Richardson. Richardson was a top 5 pick. They beat Kentucky that year. I mean, it's the league that, again, you got to bring your A game every week. And I'm not saying Texas won't, but that's what makes the SEC great. And I think that's what Oklahoma and Texas fans, at least a little bit, are overlooking.
What was your big takeaway from SEC Media Days? Is there anything stand out that maybe you weren't expecting?
I mean, the topic of conference expansion always comes up, and it sounds like, at least for now, that Greg Sankey and company are fine. I mean, I like his quotes where he said, we're strong with 16. We'll be 16 today, 16 tomorrow. He even went on to say in a later quote, we can be 16 for a long time and still be better than some of these other conferences that are at 20 and 22 and 24. Numbers doesn't make you great. Quality makes you great. And adding two big, teams like Oklahoma and Texas, along with Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M. I mean, I think you've got the best brands in college football. We can debate on Vanderbilt and South Carolina and some of the ones at the bottom, but nonetheless, it was just interesting because everybody wants to, let's get Clemson, let's get Florida State. And that report that came out that, Florida State's like the ex-wife that just keeps getting divorced and remarried. Like, nobody wants that. Like, You want commitment. You want firm, somebody, if you're going to bring somebody new, you want them committed to you, not kind of always having the wandering eye. So I just thought that was pretty interesting because we will see, David. I mean, I do think here in the next couple of years, we're going to hear news that perhaps Florida State and maybe Clemson will jump ship to the Big 12 because it sounds like the Big 10 and the SEC aren't really interested in adding those brands right now. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that to me kind of stood out with Greg Sankey saying, look, we're good where we are. Let's also pump the brakes here. Like we're running a marathon here with all the changes in college football. And it's like sometimes we got to take a break and take a deep breath, collect ourselves and say, just because everyone else is doing this, we don't need to just rush into all these other things.
So, Chris, let's talk about the different tiers of teams in the SEC, right? You got your top tier teams, I'm assuming, and you tell me what your list is, but Georgia, Texas, maybe in that top tier, Ole Miss. And then you got your second.
I've got Georgia just at top, Texas a rung below.
Okay. So kind of give me your tiers then.
Yeah. So, number one is Georgia. Now, Georgia's schedule is as tough as it's been in a while. So they're going to have to weather that storm. But I still think collectively their roster is more deep than anybody in the SEC. I mean, Kirby has just recruited at an all-time level. I mean, they're 5-star after 5-star after 5-star at every position. I put it this way. Like if Malachi Starks goes down with injury, their season's not over. If Michael Williams goes down with injury, their season's not over. Like it's just going to be next man up. Other schools, you lose a key starter. Like A&M, I like how they've recruited. But if you lose Nick Scorton for the year, it's going to hurt. Like I'm looking for who's the next big edge rusher that's going to get me 11, 12 sacks. Like that's my expectation for Nick this year. So so you got Georgia at the top. The next tier is obviously Texas because of their weak schedule and what they bring back. And the roster is good. They did lose a ton to the draft. But I do think that Texas is in that group. Ole Miss, I'd put in that group. Probably Missouri. I keep going back and forth on this because Eli Drinkwitz was awesome last year. But can you do it again? Like, you got to show me again that you can do that.
That schedule, though, Chris.
Schedule sets up so well for that. I'll probably put them in that group just because even if they go 10-2, they're going to make the playoff, and that's losing their two toughest teams, or two toughest games. And then that's kind of tier 2, and then tier 3, I put LSU, and I keep going back and forth whether I put A&M in that group because all three of these teams have potential 9-3s on the table, but 8-4, 7-5 is probably more realistic. So that's kind of my next tier, and then it's that hodgepodge of everybody else. Oklahoma on down is kind of where I queue it up, and Alabama, and we got to put them in that group with Texas.
So, Chris, let me ask you about A&M because you said you don't know if they're in that tier 3 or the tier 4. Why? Well, what is your reason for not being sure?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I like the hire of Elko. I think it's a great fit. I think he's going to do a great job. He's already recruiting well. The transfer portal group, I think, is awesome. It's so underrated. Ole Miss got all the headlines about, number 1 portal class. Yeah, A&M's right behind him. I think he's done all these things well. But here's the problem, David. For the last month, everybody I've talked to is telling me, yeah, my dark horse is A&M. Hey, A&M is a team to watch. Randall Cobb tells me, yeah, Connor Wegman's my dark horse quarterback in the SEC. And I'm going, at what point are they the dark horse when everyone is telling me they're the dark horse? You know what I mean? Like, so now it becomes, okay, expectations have raised now. And a lot of Aggie fans I've talked to now are going, yeah, I think 8-4 with Elko. And I'm like, how did we get here so quick? Like, it was supposed to be Jimbo's gone. There's going to be a little bit of a transition. It's going to take Elko time, but he's going to build this thing up. And now all of a sudden it's like 8-4 bust. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, how did we get here so fast? But I think people are starting to look at the roster going, wait, you still got Wegman. You still got a talented running back room. Offensive line looks pretty good. If Noah Thomas emerges as a dynamic receiver, I like the defense. Elko's going to have him play hard. Like, you start to talk yourself into, why can't this group go 8?
Well, hold on. I want to push back a little bit here because they went 7-5 last year with dysfunction, right? With so much chaos the last couple years. And, Chris, you watch the games just as much as I do. They could have won, of their 5 losses, 3 or 4 of them they should have won. They were leading Alabama. They were leading LSU in the fourth quarter. I'm not saying they should have beat LSU because obviously Jaden Daniels did his thing in the fourth, but that's a game they could have won, right? And that's with dysfunction. If you get rid of some of the fat and you don't have, like, 8-4 should be the minimum you expect. You should be better than you were last year if you have a better culture, a better strength and conditioning coach, and your quarterback back. This is with how many quarterbacks played for them last year? I guess that's why, like, some of us are. I'm not expecting 10-2 or 9-3. I could see a path to it, but 8-4 to 9-3, that should be what we expect. You don't see that?
I just feel like anytime you bring in a new coach, it's going to take some time. There's a lot of new faces in that portal. I mean, it's we've seen it year in and year out. Some teams bring in pieces through the portal and it works out. Now look at LSU 2 years ago. Brian Kelly rebuilt this whole secondary through the portal, and it worked out. Last year, their transfer portal class, not so good. Look at Auburn. I mean, they struggle with that big C word all year, chemistry, trying to find the right mix. So I allow a little bit of leeway to say, look, got to give Elko time to get his feet under him, settle back in. What he did at Duke was awesome. Again, this is the SEC. It's a different animal. He's coached here before as a DC, but not as a head coach. So that's why I kind of say, like, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I just feel like we're suddenly, like, it was like a snowball rolling down the hill. It was just like, yeah, I think A&M could be good. Yeah, I think A&M could be pretty good. To suddenly, well, 8-4 is at minimum. It's like, okay, well, let's slow down a little bit. Like, if they go 7-5, what does it look like? Was it a last-second field goal loss? Was it this or that? Like, no one's questioning he's the right hire and this thing is gonna build for the future. But I just caution people, because when they lose a game to Arkansas, like, don't get all up in arms and, oh, we should have hired Mark Stoops or somebody else. Like, you pump the brakes. He's got to give him time. This is the same thing that happened with Florida and Billy Napier. It's like, Billy Napier's a good coach, but from the minute he stepped foot in Gainesville, it's like, oh, you better win. It's like we give coaches no time anymore to settle in and, like, at least develop their programs.
Did you expect Brian Kelly to probably not have the success he had in year one, but did you expect what did you expect from Brian coming off of Ed Orgeron?
The guy's won everywhere he's been. I mean, it's funny. I heard people saying that about Kalen DeBoer, and it's like, okay, he coached at some Division II level, lower tier. Really, Kalen DeBoer's only been a head coach, at Fresno State and Washington, like 4 years as a head coach at this big boy level. When you try to compare it to Brian Kelly had years and years at the lower level, but then he had 4 years at Cincinnati, a decade at Notre Dame. I mean, like, Brian Kelly, look at his track record. Notre Dame wasn't doing this before he got there. It's not like Charlie Weiss and Tyrone Willingham were winning 10 games every year. And so I figured he was going to have success at LSU, but it's, LSU's kind of in that category of, like, be competing for a championship once every 3 to 4 years. That's kind of the standard at LSU. And when you look at the past three coaches who have done it, Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Orgeron, every one of them by year 3 or 4 won a championship. And so now the LSU fans kind of say, look, 10 wins is awesome, nice bowl win and all this, but when are we going to take that next step? And a lot of people thought this was going to be the year. I love the changes he's made on the defensive side of the ball. Where are the Jimmies and the Joes? It's still those guys who stunk on defense last year. I think Harold Perkins is really good. All good reports so far on Jordan Gilbert coming over in the secondary, but, like, I still don't know if they have that elite talent that they typically have on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what it takes to win a championship. All the attention Joe Burrow and the offense got in 2019, the defense was pretty stinking good. That helped them close the door on a lot of teams. Same thing with Les Miles in 2007, same thing with Nick Saban in 2003. I just wonder, is this the year that Kelly can take that big leap forward? And the schedule sets up at least they get Bama at home, they get Ole Miss at home. They do have to go on the road at A&M, but I just wonder, like, look, 10-win seasons are great, but, like, eventually, in a 3-4 year span, you want to take that leap forward. And again, this year it gets a little bit easier. 10-2 gets you into the playoff in the SEC, but can Brian Kelly do it? We'll see.
Great stuff as always, my man. Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, David.
Take care. Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, iHeartRadio. You can catch him on 790 in Houston. Right now, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with a closing segment for the 9 o'clock hour before Tom Hart joins us here in the 10 o'clock hour. Let's talk about our friends at FBS Appliance. Their team of experts are there to help you with the appliances that make your house a home. They have all the brands you can imagine to make your life easier and appliances to fit any budget. So they've been taking care of Texas since 1988. They've got your trusted brands like Bosch and others, right? They have expert staff, trained installers to guide you through the purchase because FBS Appliance wants to be your trusted appliance store. They're helping out with our 24 in 24. They are the proud sponsors of that. They're committed to customer satisfaction at the core of everything that they do, and their services do not stop at sales. They offer expert installation. They're committed to delivering an exceptional experience from start to finish. You can visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas or visit them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is factorybuilderstores.com. All right, before we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, let's talk about our car wash tradition with the friendliest staff. That is Aggieland Express Car Wash. They are Aggieland's first green car wash. They recycle 100% of their water. They've got 2 great locations. You know the original on William D. Fitch behind Shipley's in South College Station, and, of course, that brand new location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station across from Planet Fitness. Both Aggieland Express Car Wash have all the services that you want, from the varying wash options, the free vacuums and towel use, unlimited monthly memberships. But the new location does offer a full-service full-service wash there on Texas Avenue. It's the newest one in town. You can choose from the full-service option. Their team of experts will take care of cleaning, drying, vacuuming, doing it all for you. And for a limited time, they're asking you to try it out for half the price. It's normally $40, but you can get it for $20 off if you tell them that I sent you by. All right, so if anybody wants to try that out, we're going to give away one free one right now at 979-693-1150. First caller will give them a free car wash from Aggieland Express Car Wash in Texas Avenue. I say on Texas Avenue in regular College Station. That's where you can get it. All right, Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson, quickly.
We got a comment just from you and Chris Gordy's little witty banter, if you would say, saying that Sark is 2-7 in big games. Your thoughts?
Look, I think Sark's got a lot to prove. Unfortunately, I think he's going to have a good year. He is an awesome offensive mind. There's no doubt about that. Before last season, he was a 500 career head coach. Has he figured it out? I guess the next 2 years will go a long way in telling us if he is one of those top 3 or 4 coaches in college football. If he gets to the SEC championship game in his first year, regardless of the schedule, you got to give him the props. But he's going to have to prove that he can do it. How many big games is he going to have this year? They did beat Alabama this year, or this past year. 2 years ago, they could have won that game if Quinn doesn't get hurt. Maybe it was a good matchup for him. We'll see as Georgia heads there to Austin early on. We'll hit a break. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, the Tom Hart. Tom Hart on TexAgs. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline, talk to our buddy Tom Hart from the SEC Network and ESPN, who I had hoped to catch up with last week at SEC Media Days, but since I don't read so well, I thought he said he was in town. He wasn't in town, so I promoted that he was going to be with us, and he's like, you sure you want to get me on the phone when you're at SEC Media Days? And so there we are, a week later. What's up, Tom?
We're all guilty of it. We just see a couple of keywords and we don't really dial in. But just for everybody, I specifically said, hey, I am not going to be on site. Do you still want me? And you responded with such enthusiasm that it shocked me. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can't wait. And then I get, hey, we're at table number 7. And I was like, well, the table number 7 might as well be on Mars for all I'm concerned, because I'm still going to have to call in. What was your experience like, though? Like, I mean, obviously Dallas was a little bit different, but the biggest thing is having those other 2 programs there. Yeah. How did it differ from other ones that I've been to in years past?
So I love Dallas. I think it's a great town. I didn't love it in Dallas because there was nothing – like, I think after you do the Nashville experience and everything is so close, that and going anywhere else, like Houston would have been the same thing. Atlanta, there's some stuff close by in Atlanta, so I take that back. But Nashville, to me, was the best layout for life outside of doing the show. But doing the show, Dallas was awesome. It was a long corridor, and it was cool. It did feel different with the new teams because one team made it about them every time they had a chance. But it was cool. You know, it was nice to be able to drive and be back in the same day and not be jet lagged.
Yeah, that's great. I think what's lost is that it really is an event. And there was talk at some time, you know, when it was has been in Hoover in the past because of the volume of fans, primarily Bama and Auburn, but the volume of fans that show up when it's there, was you could consider making it a fan event, right? Have a stage, have people in there, you know, whether you sell tickets or not, that would be something that fans would be into. That's harder to do outside of either Nashville or Hoover, just because of the like you said. Listen, Nashville has turned into an incredible destination city, and specifically sports destination. They've done a wonderful job with it. And I was just talking with some folks last week, and they were asking some very specific questions about Nashville and the future of, you know, sports in the Southeast with their new stadium coming along. What did they start to steal from Atlanta or other major sports hosts, based not just on the new stadium, but everything around there? I mean, it's kind of like the southern version of Vegas, or what New Orleans, I think, used to be, and I think what people idealistically still think of New Orleans. But from a party town and a destination, and the type of people that want to show up for, you know, 200,000 for the NFL draft, or when the Preds were in the playoffs, or you know, a huge concert series that takes place at Titan Stadium or Nissan Stadium, whatever we're calling it. Like, that's a real destination these days, and it's easy for a lot of people to get to. So think, you know, as far as big metros are concerned, and with the new stadium, they might start swiping some stuff in the future.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio. I love Nashville, so I mean that's the town that I could hang out quite a bit. Hey, did you have any FOMO though for not being there?
I have to think about that. I mean, I really enjoyed having my free time and being at home, given how much I travel. And I ended up in Canton, Ohio for the NFL Flag Championships we put on air all weekend. So that was Thursday through Sunday for me. So in that sense, I did. But what I really appreciated, and what I think was the star of the show, was I was able to kind of, you know, have the TV on and check in and check out. And I thought Nick Saban was fantastic. I was pleasantly surprised that he was willing to be critical of teams and personnel. You know, he did it in a way that he wasn't banging on them, but, you know, he was talking about Georgia's secondary and Alabama's corners and where they need to get better. So that was interesting. And then it was also interesting watching how other coaches did and didn't embrace him in that role. I thought that was, you know, Heupel wasn't exactly best friends with him when they were on stage, but then, you know, obviously others that he gets along with really well, Kirby and Lane and others, really embraced that.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio. Hey, before we go on with more of the SEC, I did want to ask you about the U18 Girls Flag Football Championships. Just take me through that. Like, how cool of an experience was it to be a part of? Are we going to be seeing more of this?
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, it's coming to the Olympics in L.A. They're going to have flag football. We did the under 15 and the under 15 boys, under 18 girls. And there were a couple of guys out there, listen, they're rising ninth graders and sophomores for the most part. So, you know me, David, like I'm not a big recruiting nerd, and I certainly am not following them at 15 years old. But there are a couple of guys, there's a kid from Bowles High School in Jacksonville that's already being heavily recruited by Georgia and others. And you can see that. Now, they're 15, right? If you're 5'9" at 15 and you're done growing, there's only so much room for you. You better be elite. But the skill set is fun to watch. And the fact that it's coming to the LA Olympics, our discussion and working with guys like Teddy Bruschi and RG3 who were there throughout the weekend was, do NFL guys really want to play in the Olympics? And do they want to get paid to do so? Or let's just use Patrick Mahomes for an example. If he is your quarterback, does he simply say to State Farm, hey, listen, I'm going to do the Olympics, up the ad buy, double my money, and I can go do it for technically no pay from the U.S. Olympic Committee, and I can win a gold medal. Think about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow could possibly be a guy, and you could probably come up with another name, but he's one that jumped out at me. Got a national championship. Could very well win a Super Bowl, although the window seems to be closing for the Bengals. Could have a gold medal. Like, there are, I don't know any other NFL guys that have gold medals. Maybe there were some sprinters back in the day. I mean, I remember Willie Gault was on the Olympic team, and Herschel Walker pushed the bobsled, and I believe Herschel won a gold in bobsled. But I don't know that there are many, if any, NFL players that have a Super Bowl and a gold medal.
Great point. Tom Hart with us here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Tom, so one of the big talking points when it comes to A&M is that, like, the no-nonsense kind of quiet approach that A&M is having under Coach Elko. And I feel like it fits the brand that I grew up with watching A&M football, the R.C. Slocum Aggies, the Jackie Sherrill. I mean, there was a confidence and a cockiness, sure, but it's still about going to work and doing your business. Do you think it fits what this program should be, at least at this point after the last few years?
Well, I think anytime you have failure, and the Jimbo era outside of 1 year, I think it's fair to call it a failure. Given, if you don't ever judge this stuff in a vacuum, right? I mean, the monetary investment and the opportunity missed would qualify it as a failure over the time span. So anytime you have one organization or regime that's a failure, usually the pendulum swings the opposite way, right? It's why in the NFL, every time a defensive-minded coach gets fired, who does the president want to hire next time around? Well, give me a great offensive mind, and vice versa, right? So, yes, I think in that respect, it's important for the fan base to see, like, listen, I don't need to see all of the Instagram stuff. I don't need to hear all the talk about a recruiting class or recruiting accolades. Just let's be the blue-collar program that we have always been and go out and play physical football and win games. And it's not to say the other way can't work, and it's not to say that it's bad to promote yourself on social media. That's what kids do these days. But I think in contrast to what we saw with the previous regime, it's a matter of reading the room, even if it's not 100% that personality. So I agree with you. I think that's just that sends a message that we're here to work and we're here to win games and we're here to represent A&M in the right way.
Tom Hart with us here on TexAgs Radio. Tom, is Alabama one of those teams that, like, we expect them to be really good because, well, A, they're Alabama, and Kalen DeVore seems to be bringing a different kind of swagger to there. But one of those teams is really hard to really gauge because we don't know about that transition to the SEC.
No, we don't know. Now, he's been successful everywhere he's been. In fact, somebody just sent me a YouTube video the other day. You won't believe this, but Kalen DeVore's first ever nationally televised game was in 2008 when he was coaching NAIA, his team in Georgia. and on the call was one Tom Hart and Trev Alberts, Kalen DeBoer on the sideline.
What?
So there you go. That's yeah. I've got the screen grab. I'll send it to you. I totally I remember I did some of those NAIA games. I didn't remember Kalen DeBoer was the head coach of the team that upset Carroll College and won it. So I just got it yesterday, and I've got to go back and watch the YouTube and see if there's anything really interesting there. As Trevor broke down the game, which is really fun. I think he is an excellent coach, but there is a difference between being an excellent coach or even an elite coach and taking over for the guy who was the greatest ever. I think Dan Lanning is a great comp. When Lanning got to Oregon, it was like, okay, well, yeah, he could win. He's probably a good coach. And now I think we're going to see that Dan Lanning is an elite coach, and you could see some of that. I mean, I don't think I'll ever forget his speech like Colorado. I thought that was like I would run through a wall for this dude, and it was so anti-Dion and everything that he delivered that day. So the question is, can Kalen DeBoer continue this rise with everything at his disposal in terms of investment in the program and the infrastructure that's been there for decades, even pre-Saban, even though they had a drop-off right before Nick got there. So, yeah, I think we expect the Alabama logo to be excellent, but we'll start to realize just, how heavy a lift that is to remain at that level.
Tom, I know you have an active interest in Missouri. They're one of those teams that you look at their schedule, you look at the talent that they're bringing back on offense, you think they could have a huge year. How high are you on Missouri this year?
Well, I'm really high on them. I'm high on both Missouri and Ole Miss. What I found fascinating last week is, and I've been there, you spend all week at media days, you go past the obvious storylines and you start to dig into the gray areas and the what-ifs and the hypotheticals. And one of the storylines that popped up was at the top level, Missouri's schedule is going to allow them to be successful, and if they can replicate what they did last year, they're going to be a playoff. However, as you dive deeper into that schedule, and to an extent as well for Ole Miss, if they're a two-loss team to the two best teams on their schedule, is the rest of their schedule strong enough to get them an at-large berth? And I think that's a really interesting wrinkle, and we won't know that. I think it's a fun talking point if and when they suffer a loss. They should get off to a really good start if they can hold their water. But what is a 12-team playoff going to look like? And what is strength of schedule where is that going to land in the discussion with all of these teams? Especially if you're not an elite team with a history and a logo. I mean, I don't think very many one-loss teams get in front of Florida State last year, but one-loss Alabama does, right? I mean, it matters who you are and what your history is. We can argue all day that it shouldn't, but it does. So, yeah, I think with the quarterback receiver tandem that they've got, they have to replace the SEC's leading rusher in one way, but in the other way, they have to replace a former Division II walk-on at running back. How hard is that going to be, right? I mean, they found magic before. Maybe they can find it again and just do it by committee. But they won a lot of close games last year to get to that position, and they faced an Ohio State team in the Cotton Bowl that was down to like a third-string quarterback. So once you dive into the details, you realize it's not as easy as it looks on paper.
You surprised at Ohio State, who is getting a lot of love for being the kind of caliber of program that they are, but the Big Ten is giving love to Dan Lanning and not Ryan Day. They're giving love to Dylan Gabriel. Like it's more about Oregon there at Big Ten Media Days than it is about Ohio State, who's expected to win the Big Ten.
Well, I think that is from an attention standpoint and media standpoint, I think that's an indictment on where Ryan Day has come up short in recent years, and largely in one single game, and it's the last game at the end of the regular season. Big Ten media, I don't know that they're terribly different than others, but I have always found them interesting. I covered Ohio State right after Tressel got fired, And I was shocked by how many of the Ohio State media who celebrated Tressel and had him on a pedestal for so long immediately pulled a 180 and threw him under the bus in every way that they covered him and how they spoke about him and how they wrote about him. And I'm seeing similar stuff for vastly different reasons with Ryan Day. The Tressel stuff, these days you look back on it, kids selling, pants and necklaces and trading them for tattoos. Like what? That's almost NIL word for word. That's a whole different story. I think that the feeling is that if he's not successful, we don't want to be attached to him. And I think that's what I'm seeing from a lot of the Big Ten media, and specifically Ohio State specifically.
Tom, it doesn't have to be SEC unless it is an SEC team. Who do you think is the surprise team that people are not talking about, as we do this talking season here with all these media days happening, that could be in the conversation for a playoff, a team that a lot of people are potentially sleeping on?
Well, I think it's going to be really hard to predict, David, because we don't know how the committee is going to value the at-large teams. And I think what's going to be interesting is following that group of five race, like who's the best team among the rest, or who is that one at-large team that maybe we don't pay attention to because they're not a sexy name, or they don't get off to an incredible start, but they're still there at the end. I'm trying to think back for the I think it's BCS days or maybe the 14th club. Did Ohio State lose to Virginia Tech like week 2 and then ended up playing for a national championship years ago? Usually when you lose early, you get forgotten about. And so I think that will be, when we reflect on this come, like Thanksgiving weekend and take stock of kind of where we are in late November, I think it'll be one of those teams that, and keep in mind, as a sport, we're not used to that. That Ohio State loss early and then the rebound was notable because it was such an outlier. We're going to see a lot more of that with a 12-team playoff, where you can afford a loss, and you can afford a loss really at any time of the season, but especially early in the year to then reestablish and get back in voters and committees' good graces. So, to me, it'll be one of those teams that suffers a loss in September and then has a lighter schedule and gets on a roll late in the season. And that is impossible to predict, because most of us, if there's a team that loses the second week of September, we're inclined just to write them off and move on to whoever's hot and whoever's undefeated and who's getting all the headlines.
That is Tom Hart, SEC Network, and of course ESPN. Tom, I appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, David. Sorry I missed you at table 7.
I'll be there tomorrow. You can go check me out there.
All right, perfect. See you, brother.
Hey, man. Tom Hart, TexAgs Radio. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with Around the SEC, some storylines that Carson's pulled together for us. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That is a company that makes documentary films about pretty much anything, right? But it doesn't have to be about a celebrity. It can be about your grandfather who's got a cool story. It could be about your dad. It could be about your mom. It could be about your whole family, right? It could be about family events that you do. Every Thanksgiving, not only do we get together, we watch the Cowboys game and we start talking trash. We got one side of the family that's Longhorns, one side of the family that's Aggies. You want to tell that story. Have Chance and his team be an eye in the sky. You got a weekly tradition that you guys do with your buddies. You go golfing together. You guys have a family ranch that you want to talk about, how you founded, how you started your own Yellowstone, your family business. Chance can do these documentary films that will be preserved for generation after generation. I highly, highly recommend it. You can also do a Year Flicks, which is a 20-minute Q&A video, a benchmark video reserved for the youngers, right? For the younger kids in the family, 13 years old to 14, to maybe freshman year of high school, to maybe freshman year at A&M, and then followed up with another part when they get their Aggie ring and they graduate. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. We back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I know there's not a lot of you, I assume, because every time I talk basketball or NBA, I should say, people are like, ugh. And I know Nick for sure does not know the answer to this, but I have not watched Team USA get ready for the Olympics. But what I have seen is like every 3 days, like they have a nail-biting win, like against teams that they should crush. Has anybody paid attention? Carson, you're an NBA guy. Have you been paying attention at all?
I watched some of the games. I didn't watch the one last night where I saw they barely beat Germany, but it's been a little disappointing.
Was Dirk playing? Dropping 40?
No.
Oh, he's old. That's right.
No, he's a little older. He's a little seasoned vet, so.
I don't understand, like, I thought we were supposed to dominate with LeBron and Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant hasn't even played. So I don't know what's happening. If anybody are they just not playing defense?
It has been a little disappointing. Just everyone's been calling this team arguably the greatest.
No, they're not the greatest. Okay,
greatest assembly of talent is what oh my God.
Like yesterday, I had Riley in here trying to argue with me and you too why LeBron's better than Michael. It's just a stupid argument. What? Excuse me?
It's not a stupid argument. It's a valid argument.
I don't even want to get into it because I can hear you hear that. That's people changing the channel. I was talking about this, but here I don't remember close games with Michael in the Olympics. I remember beating Cuba. Not my Cuba because I'm not a communist, but that Cuba.
Did you know
by
the Dream
72
team,
points?
Did you know the Dream Team only played 6 NBA players? Did you know this Olympic team is playing about 92?
Did you know that Dream Team is the reason we have worldwide NBA players because of that Dream Team? You are aware of that, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you realize that our forefathers that played the sports before that were the best of the best. You can tell me Larry Bird isn't good? Come on. Magic Johnson can play in any era.
I've never said that.
Larry Bird can play in any, just like LeBron can play in any era, right? Michael Jordan can play in any era. Christian Laettner could dominate in any era.
Hot take. Very hot take right there.
Karl Malone would destroy, there aren't real power forwards anymore, right? There aren't real centers and power forwards anymore. You know how hard it is to go in the lane with those dudes there with Dream, the career block leader? Did Mutombo pass him? At the time, it was Dream.
No, it's still Hakeem.
Okay. Are you kidding me? Please stop with the randomness. Can you give me some SEC storylines before I get upset about this again?
I can. I just came across this one article by On3 where they talked about top 10 players that didn't make an All-SEC team and who they could be. Not one single Aggie made the top 10 for them.
Hold on. Jared says, cook him, Carson. Nuño's floundering about the young kids. Jared, are you 24? Going to his channel.
People know.
No, they don't know. Yeah, he's 26. You're floundering. I'll play you one-on-one right now, Jared. Continue. Sorry.
But back to what I was saying, not a single Aggie made the top 10 snubs or sleepers list.
But I think there was an Aggie close, right?
There is an honorable mention of Texas A&M corner Des Ricks from the transfer from Alabama. He's the only one that made the list.
List or just list, whatever. But people forget A&M has 2 5-stars that are just very green because they haven't played. Just like every other team. Des Ricks at least had a year learning how to play at Alabama, and Terry Bussey. Do not sleep on those guys next year. Do not. And by the way, I was joking about Laettner, Jared. If you didn't know that was a joke, please.
He wasn't joking. That was a very serious hot take by David.
I don't think Laettner should have been on that team. Shaq should have been on that team. That's a fact.
Coulda, shoulda, and woulda.
But they dominated. I was kidding about Laettner being one of the best players of all time. Anyway.
Moving on. Quinn Ewers was asked at SEC Media Days about the game against Alabama last year, and he said, I think that shows what we are capable of as a whole. I think the biggest thing for us is, we're capable of playing the big games that we played that one. Now we have to really do it on much more consistent level because week in, week out, we're playing a tough opponent. I can definitely agree with that.
It's a bright young man. My opinion of him from his transition from Ohio State to Texas, I didn't really have a real opinion, but I just, whatever. He's a nice kid, and I think he's got the right mindset there. Kind of going back to what Brent Venables said about you're not going to sneak up on anybody. I think that's a great answer. But the reality is for all teams, not just Texas, right? Like for all teams, you have to be at your best every week minus Vanderbilt. When you get them at home, you absolutely have the advantage. But when you go to Gainesville, when you go to Fayetteville, and Texas will go to Fayetteville, even though I think we all agree that Arkansas is going to be rough this year. When you go to Mississippi State, to Starkville, when you go to Oxford, when you go to these places, right? Like those wins are not guaranteed. They're not gimmies. They're not what the Big 12 is. They're not what the Pac-12 is. Like road games in the SEC outside of Vandy are like legit slugfest that the home team, even when bad, even when they go 5-7, have a fighter's chance on the last possession to win games. Let's try to get one more in.
Billy Napier was asked about the challenging schedule that Florida has during SEC Media Days, and he said, I think ultimately, again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. As cliche as it sounds, it's literally 1 week at a time. Learning how to self-discipline and prepare the same way, the same level of focus, same detail, same urgency, and get in position to where you can execute and do your job for the team.
Yeah, kind of goes back to Venables and all these. By the way, if you are a head coach and you have that schedule, if you don't look at it that way, to borrow a word from the chat, you're cooked, right? Like you legit, like Florida in the first month of the season is going to be tested in winnable games. The end of the season, they're going to be tested with, I think, unwinnable games. That Miami game, to start off at home, they have to have that to have the kind of year, like to have like that 7 kind of win season. They have to have that one. They have to have A&M. And right now, those are both losses in my eyes. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back. We'll find out about Mississippi State, one of the road games that A&M has this year. How different is it going to be under Jeff Lebby? We'll talk about that. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. You go there when you want to find a vehicle at the right price and also consider trade-in value, right? Like you've got a budget, you can spend this amount, but you better get a lot for your car, right? Because if not, you're not going to be able to kind of get the car that you want. Just try it at Caldwell Country Chevrolet and tell me what you think about the experience. Because there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you're going to get great customer service, great pricing on a vehicle that you're trying to purchase, and a great trade-in value. And then afterwards, you're going to be like, you know what? I need my service done here, because that is the place that's going to take care of you with their complimentary pickup and delivery for all of their service customers. We bought a Tahoe from them a couple years back. Great experience, great people there. Highly, highly recommend it. It's about a 15-minute drive, the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Right there. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk to a Mississippi State insider. Brian Hadad, good friend of the program, has been here many times. Sports Talk Mississippi on Super Talk. You can find him Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. Mr. Hadad, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are things going over there? Wasn't I just in Texas? I was just there, wasn't I?
Like we had Gordy on the show earlier. We were supposed to do some radio, but then, things get happen and we get busy. So, we got a few weeks before it really gets cooking, so we can do it now.
When you were on the air last week on Wednesday, that was the day Mississippi State was downstairs around that time. So I was just all tied up with that.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about Mississippi State and just how different things are. I want you to take me back to last year, what you felt going into this season, because I think there was some optimism because of the defense and Zach Arnett. But in retrospect, I remember on this show we were talking about why are you changing the offense? What are you doing for Will Rogers, right? To what it's like now with Jeff Lebby.
Yeah, with last year, you look back in hindsight, and I mean, I don't know why anybody still wants to hear my opinion because I thought that team was going to be pretty good. And you were right. Defensively, they had enough, and by the end of the season, they were pretty good defensively. But Will Rogers, we just learned that he's a system quarterback, and you put him in the right system, you put him in the air raid, and he'll be fine. He'll get you 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. But outside of that, and then he had injury issues, and Zach Arnett, at the end of the day, just not ready to be a head coach, just not. And I'm thankful that Zach Selman, Mississippi State's athletic director, saw that early and just went ahead and cut and pulled the Band-Aid off and got State moving in the right direction. With Lebby, I mean, he's a guy that his offensive reputation precedes him. Everywhere he's been, they've been really good offensively, at Central Florida, at Ole Miss, at Oklahoma. And it feels like to me that he was the assistant coach that everybody had circled as he's the next guy. He's the next guy to become a head coach and go forward. It's kind of the same way if you go back, I guess now it's hard to believe, but it's been 15 years with Dan Mullen. When Mullen came to Mississippi State, everybody sort of was pointing at him and saying he's the next big head coach, and when he gets his first job, he'll take off from there. Talking to some people over in the athletic department, they get some similar vibes from Lebby and from Mullen in terms of the way they carry themselves, the confidence they have in themselves. Lebby a little bit more active on the recruiting trail than Mullen was. Mullen was notorious for not being the most exciting recruiter in the world, but he was a great developer of talent. We'll see if Lebby can do that because Mississippi State is always going to be a place that 5 stars aren't flocking to. But I think State's going to be better this year offensively. It's just going to be a question of what does the defense look like and what do they look like in the win-loss record.
So what is considered a good season in year one of Jeff Lebby, considering all the change and also how bad last year was?
People are going to want to put a number on it, and I get that. But talking to Lebby last week, he said, I just want Mississippi State fans to feel like they've got the right guy at the end of the season. So there's some qualitative things to this beyond just wins and losses. I think State can get to 6. Their non-conference schedule isn't terribly difficult. The game at Arizona State will be tough because it's on the road against a Power 5 opponent, but that's probably the worst team in the Big 12. You would like to think an SEC team could go there and win. And then in the conference, they get Florida and Arkansas at home. Those are games that I would just circle right now and say winnable. If things go your way. State should be 3-0 when they play Florida in week 4. So you should have an excited, big crowd for that one. I'm not real big on Florida this year. And then the Arkansas thing, I talked a lot about this last week in Dallas, and I talk about it on my podcast and on Sports Talk Mississippi. I don't understand why Arkansas continues to get the benefit of the doubt over Mississippi State. Mississippi State has beaten Arkansas 7 of the last 10 years. They've finished ahead of them in the West 7 of the last 10 years. And yet every year, Arkansas is predicted ahead of Mississippi State. That game last year, not maybe the ugliest football game ever played. 7-3 was the final. But, I mean, I saw 3-2, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But I think State can beat Arkansas. And so if State is 5-7, 6-6 on the year, but offensively, they're just obviously a lot better. If they're scoring close to 30 points per game and State needs to lose some shootouts. That's something they've never really done. You go back to Kiffin's first year at Ole Miss, and I've made that comparison a lot, that their fans got super excited about the future because they scored a ton of points. They couldn't stop anybody. They were one of the worst defenses in college football. But when you lose to Alabama, it's better to lose sometimes 51-50 than it is to lose 10-7. because at least you get your fans excited about what's going on. You feel like you can compete when you score points. I think that's where State is this year. They just want to see some points on the board.
How rough is it as a State fan to know that Ole Miss is in these conversations and has been on this trajectory really for a while?
It's not pleasant. I'll tell you that much. I think what I've told people when I talk to State fans is this: you got to kind of enjoy this football season in a bubble. Ole Miss is going to do what they do. We'll worry about Ole Miss when we get to the Egg Bowl. That's easier said than done because the Egg Bowl really permeates things in this state 365 days a year. But Ole Miss is going to be good this year unless they have some sort of unusual injury situation. Their schedule lends itself to them winning 9, 10, 11 games. It's interesting when you talk to Ole Miss people. Normally, if an Ole Miss team were to go 9-3 and end up in the Citrus Bowl, that's one of the top 10 seasons in their history. That would be a massive disappointment for them this year. So the pressure's on at Ole Miss, and if you're a State fan, I guess you hope that they fold underneath it. You just have to hope that for Mississippi State, that in a couple of years when Jeff Lebby gets this program going in the right direction, that can be you that's in the national discussion.
Talking to Brian Hadad here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Brian is also on the Boss Firearms Hotline. I'm looking at their away games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all right,
you mentioned pleasant.
No, you mentioned Arizona State. Okay, you better win that game because I don't know where they get a win on the road.
Yeah, there are in the SEC this year. I would say there are 6 teams that you would say are real legit playoff contenders, and that's Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri. Those are teams that everybody could see winning going into the college football playoff. State plays 5 of those teams, and 4 of them are on the road. They're at Georgia, at Texas, at Tennessee, and at Ole Miss. That's as brutal a schedule. We made a lot of jokes last year when they knew that the schedule was going to change about, oh, well, maybe they won't have to play Alabama this year. And they didn't. The conference gave them that, I guess. But they gave them at Georgia and at Texas. And, gosh, when you think about next year, I mean, Georgia and Texas coming to Starkville, those are great games for atmosphere and everything, but you'd like to be able to win your home games. I don't know if you can even look ahead and say that you're going to be able to do that in 2 seasons. Yeah, State has to win that Arizona State game. That's a massive game for the Bulldogs, just to keep the early season momentum going. And they play Georgia, Texas back to back. I mean, they're at Texas. State is actually Texas's first ever SEC game, so they get that dubious honor, I guess. And then they're at Georgia the week after that. So that is a tough stretch. And those are the 2 games they'll play before they play Texas A&M.
Brian, yeah, let's talk about A&M because you didn't mention them in this gauntlet of teams you're playing. Not that A&M should get that kind of praise just yet, but what do you think about that matchup considering the changes Texas A&M has made?
I feel like A&M, they should easily be favored in that game, and we'll probably win that game when we get to it. I like A&M. I think they're going to be a good team this year. I don't think they're in the playoff contender tier, but I think they're going to be a very good team. It just feels like such a breath of fresh air over there in College Station from a season ago when everybody was just kind of under the burden of Jimbo Fisher. Now it feels like with Mike Elko, who's a coach I respect. I like him a lot. And I love Connor Weigman. I think that guy, if he can stay healthy, is a pro quarterback. I really like what I see from him when he's able to stay on the field. If he's healthy this year, I think A&M is going to be really, really good. And I think they'll catch somebody. I know Aggie fans would love for it to be Texas there at the end of the season. But they're going to catch somebody that they're right now you're not expecting them to beat. So that's going to be a really good football team. And in a couple of years, or maybe even next year, they're going to be a college football playoff contender.
Talk to me about Blake Shape and what he can do with this offense.
I like him. When you see what he did at Baylor, and it's sort of the same thing I just said with Weigman, right? It's like, can he stay healthy? When he was healthy at Baylor, he was pretty good. But he's fought the injury bug. He is the guy that when State was looking for a transfer quarterback, I think Dylan Gabriel was choice number 1 to see if he would follow Lebby from Oklahoma. Obviously, he goes to Oregon. You can't turn that down. But then in a sea of potential guys, Shapen was the guy that Lebby singled out. He said he reminds him a lot of Corral and what he's able to do in the offense and what he's able to bring. But this offense, as you know, I mean, there is a quarterback run component, and I don't know how much they want him to run in this upcoming year because the backup situation, you've got a redshirt freshman in Chris Parson who played against Texas A&M. Chris Parson, by the way, I don't know if you know this, was the freshman All-SEC quarterback last year. I think he completed 3 passes. It just there were no freshman quarterbacks in the SEC a season ago. So Chris Parson kind of got the job by default on that one. And then behind him's a true freshman who was highly recruited, but he's a true freshman. So, I know most teams are like that, where if you lose your starting quarterback, you're in trouble. That's 99% of college football. But for Mississippi State with Shapen, they really need to do everything they can to keep him upright.
Brian, I'm going to correct you kind of, all right?
Okay.
Connor Wegman has only been hurt once. A&M quarterbacks, there's a revolving door of injuries. That's for sure. It doesn't matter who's at quarterback. But Connor only got hurt once. He did not start his freshman year because he wasn't ready until the end of the year. Didn't get hurt. He got hurt last year.
That's my bad then.
In the game against Auburn. But
I thought he was hurt early, and that's why he didn't play. That's my mistake, though.
Yeah. No, well, he did get hurt last year early in the season in the Auburn game.
2 years ago.
He didn't get hurt. No. He had the flu in one game and didn't play against Florida, but half the team didn't play against Florida. But Connor has not been injury prone himself. The A&M quarterback room,
yes,
they've all gone down. So that's different. That's a different conversation.
It's all running together in a big maroon and white stream between the two of us.
Well, and the reason I correct you, quote unquote, is because Billy came back, and that's kind of like a narrative that's out there. Like, if he can stay healthy, yes. If he can stay healthy, it could be great. But he just hasn't been a injury-prone quarterback.
Right.
Because
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
He's got hurt once, and it was on a...
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, man. Feel free to talk.
It's not wrong. I think it's the position itself has been hurt so much. I mean, the first year that I was here in 21, you lost everybody. You lost Haynes, and Zach was banged up by the end of the year. The year after, Max Johnson and Haynes going down. This past year, Max Johnson goes down, Connor goes down, and Jalen Henderson goes down. So the point is, a healthy starting quarterback for any team changes the complexity of the season. I want to ask you about Kevin Coleman, this wide receiver. Does he expect to play a big role?
Oh, I think he'll play a big role. He was really sharp in the spring game. And I think he'll be probably starting in the slot for Mississippi State. State, loses Xavier Thomas to the transfer portal, loses Tulu Griffin to the NFL. So he and Kelly Akari, the transfer from UTEP, those are going to be State's two big play targets this year. Coleman is a guy who, like I said, in the spring game, I really liked what I saw from him. Akari, the same. Akari last year at UTEP averaged, I think, 21 yards per catch. I was well over 1,000 yards receiving. We've been talking a lot about wide receivers these past couple of weeks here at Mississippi State. It's I don't know if you know this or not. It's been 28 years since Mississippi State has had a wide receiver drafted in the NFL. Not first round, just drafted. Wow. Eric Moulds was the last one. And so, for State, they desperately need Akari and Coleman to step up in this offense. And when we talk about the Levy offense, every year there's been a receiver that has stepped up and had that. You had Elijah Moore and Dontario Drummond at Ole Miss, and then you had Marvin Mims and then Drake Stoops last year at Oklahoma. They've always had a receiver go for 60, 70, 80 catches, close to 1,000 yards. So Akari, Coleman, possibly Trent Hudson, the other transfer from New Mexico. Those are the targets for that. We'll see. But State desperately needs a guy like Coleman to come in and be a top target.
Brian, I think as I'm talking to you, I did a little Googling because I was trying to figure out what happened to Zach Arnett. And he's at Ole Miss?
He's at Ole Miss. Yeah. He's an analyst there.
Huh.
Yeah.
Head coach to analyst. Interesting, huh?
I mean, normally when you hear that, I guess with Saban getting out of the game, he couldn't go to that particular rehab facility. So he'll go work with Lane Kiffin.
All right, let's close out with this. So you've kind of set out what would be a nice season, and it's not necessarily about wins. Mm-hmm. But how many years away, because we know how impatient SEC fans are, right? How many years away from being relevant is going to be okay for Levy? Like, does he have to get to a bowl next year and 2 years from now, an 8-win season? Like, what's kind of like the okay timeline at Mississippi State?
Yeah, with the transfer portal nowadays, I think the old days of hiring a coach and, when his guys are juniors and seniors, we're going to be really good. Those days are kind of over. So, yeah, next year State probably needs to find a way to be in a bowl. Maybe being closer to 7. I think, you look at Ole Miss next year, they're going to take a step back. They lose Dart. They lose all these guys. They shouldn't be as good, and that game will be in Starkville. You'll have to go to College Station, but your game at Fayetteville, that's a game you feel like maybe you can win that one. So you just have to wait and see. But, in a bowl next year, and then by year 3, I'd like to think that Mississippi State could be a preseason top 25 team and people saying, hey, if things go right, they could sneak their way into the college football playoff. I think that's a fair assessment of this day and age of college football, when you can constantly reshape your roster year to year.
Brian Hadad, who does a great job. Brian, I'll be on your show later. Thanks so much for making some time, brother.
We'll change things around. I'll get to ask the questions when you come on. It'll be great.
What if I refuse to answer? I'll be a terrible guest.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Talk to you in a little bit, buddy. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Later. Brian Hadad, TexAgs Radio. We'll come back with one final segment, and we'll take some text messages, some phone calls at 979-693-1150. It's TexAgs. Time to end the day with Double Days. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledays.com, and your favorites are on their way. So we're working on some pretty big guests for tomorrow. I can't tell you one of them just yet. But I think it's going to, if I get them, tomorrow will be a good one. Somebody that I was hoping to get during SEC Media Days. But I can tell you a couple of people who will be on the show. Do you even know, Carson, who's going to be on the show tomorrow? Have you peeked at the fake rundown?
I have not.
Good. Are you familiar with Phil Steele?
I am very familiar with Phil Steele.
I bet you have a crush on Phil Steele's content.
I like some of the lists he puts out.
Yeah. So Phil Steele will be on the program. He'll be on at 10:35 tomorrow. Jason Howell. He does recruiting for TexAgs. He's awesome. He'll be on the show tomorrow. Trevor Knight. Familiar with Trevor Knight's game?
Somewhat.
That means you're not familiar, are you?
Yeah, somewhat.
I know some...
Carson, are you serious?
Are we talking about Trevor Knight who played here?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
No,
Okay,
the Trevor
yes.
Knight who played for the Philadelphia
The
Phillies.
accountant Trevor Knight.
Yeah.
The construction
Okay,
worker
guys,
Trevor
there's a lot
Knight.
of okay. Yes, I am familiar with Trevor Knight.
The Trevor Knight that certain people in this office have a crush on. I just heard Kay Nagley clap. I think it was Kay. Sorry to embarrass you, Clay. Kay or Clay, whoever you want to be. All right, so that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on what is today? Tuesday, right? My thanks to all of our great guests on the program. Brian Hadad was great. Tom Hart, love him. Chris Gordy, Gordathon. We had more OB and OB. How about that? Which one did you like better, more OB or OB? All right, that's going to do it. I got nothing else to say with 20 seconds left in the program. We will see you mañana.